Welcome back, Martini Giant fans. This is episode number 104, which is the Netflix film from 2022. Yes, this year it is Blonde, directed by Andrew Dominik, one of our favorite directors, and starring Ana de Armas. It is actually a slightly controversial film. There's been a lot of backlash about it. A lot of people saw it on Netflix. A lot of people didn't like it. Some people loved it. We are more in the latter point of view. But we wanted to talk about it and talk about the controversy and talk about why it's so important. In fact, Dan went on many a Twitter rant about it. So if you follow Martini Giant or at Martini Giant on Twitter, you should check it out. But you should also check out Dan's Twitter, which is at dthron, and look up some of the things that were going on, conversations we're having on the subject. So definitely something to be talking about. So yes, it's really cool, really exciting, and I think this is a very important podcast. Additionally, I want to mention that we are on Patreon, so we would love to have your support there. So just go to patreon.com/martinigiant. Really exciting to have that going on. And if you are a supporter of our Patreon, we will love to have you and put you on our special section of our Discord. So go ahead and click right here on this QR code that is on our YouTube, and then you will be able to join our Discord, and we will put you in the subscribers only section if you are indeed a Patreon subscriber. Additionally, as I mentioned, we are on YouTube. So for those of you who are still listening to us and you'd like to watch us on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@martinigiant. Again, that is youtube.com/@martinigiant, at obviously the @ symbol. We'd love to have you. Please subscribe and like us there. We'd like that as well. Also, as you know, we record all these podcasts on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/martini_giant. And this Saturday, we will be recording Saturday, November 5th at 3 p.m. We will be recording an episode, which are some old Denzel Washington films from the late 80s and early 90s. We were doing The Mighty Quinn and The Devil in the Blue Dress. And I think those will be a lot of fun. But for now, please enjoy episode number 104 with Blonde.
If no one's seen the legendary, now nearly legendary thread that I've had the pleasure to contribute to, the conversation built out of movie memes, it's truly hysterical.
Yeah, it's one movie answering to another movie. So it starts off with Jaws. It starts off with Jaws, and he was like, "You kids okay?"
Yeah, it's the guy in the guy who gets his leg bitten off in the pond is in the robot. And he goes, "Hey, you guys okay?" Just before he gets attacked, and then the next one is Star Wars with Han Solo speaking on the microphone and saying, "Yeah, we're okay, we're fine here. How are you?" And then it cuts to Ving Rhames in Pulp Fiction saying, "I'm pretty fucking far from okay." And then it goes for the robot in Alien, just his head, and he goes, "Well, you have my sympathies." And then the next one is the Big Lebowski, which says, "I don't need your fucking sympathies, man. I need my goddamn Johnson." And then the one following that is a picture of Jeremiah Johnson. It really, really made me laugh, and which is something I need today because I watched Blonde.
Yeah. So can we talk about that for a second? I mean, we did. Well, no, just that, we did freaking Uncut Gems, and then Mulholland Drive, and then Blonde, and Uncut Gems
next.
Uncut Gems was like the easiest going of all three of those. And it's just like I can't do it anymore.
That's the pick me up. Uncut Gems is the happy movie.
It's affecting my well-being.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very true. It's very, very true. In fact, I was just telling Eric, like I just watched Blonde for my fourth time and finished it about 20 minutes ago.
Right.
And I had to take a minute to get my shit together after that. Otherwise, I'm glad I gave myself at least 15 minutes before I actually got on the show.
You don't wash that before going into an HR meeting. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Really? Any public forum at all, I think it's
like
boy, oh boy, that is something. Okay, so we are talking about Blonde today. We're not talking about it yet.
Yes.
This is the early chit chat part of the show. So how are you guys doing? Let's talk about happy stuff.
I'm okay. I'm
Why are you so down, Chris?
Yeah.
I believe that movie is the original screenplay was called The Death of Hope by Eric.
Yeah.
It may be true.
There's a lot to say, and it's really hard actually. I try to write it down because, and it's just like, oh my God, how far can we go in this one?
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say about this movie. I'll hold my fire.
Yeah. Here's a feeling that I have. So, you guys know Kevin Mack, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Mack used to work at Sony, and Sony was not far from a little sort of French bistro restaurant called Dijonnaise in Culver City. You guys remember? Dijonnaise is closed now, by the way, closed during the pandemic. But yeah, that was a nice little one. Yeah, it was good, but he liked it because it was. Let me see how did he? Hold on a second. I just realized I have to fix something here. I'm gonna put this on. Oops. Hold on. He said that he liked the escargot at Dijonnaise, right? Mm-hmm. He says, I absolutely love escargot. And then so he said, that's just an appetizer. So instead, he went to Dijonnaise and ordered 3 orders of escargot and have that as his entire meal. And then he realized there's such a thing as too much escargot. And this is how I feel right now. I think we've had too much escargot.
It is it's an experience. It's an experience. That is not like his movie is over. Whether people like it or don't like it, it is overwhelming. I think that is it.
Yeah. It is a little overwhelming and a little hard to but I think even just the film, even if we didn't do Uncut Gems and Mulholland Drive, this movie on its own is too much escargot.
This movie is one of the saddest things I've ever seen. And to the point of it's just like it's hard to.
It's too much.
I don't know if it's too much. I don't think it's too much.
Well, it's not just the sadness that's too much. It's not just the sadness that's too much. It's the when a film does a neat trick that's like, oh, what a beautiful transition. It's doing this constantly.
The entire film is that.
The entire film is like that.
Yes. What's the matter with that?
Well, it's just constant to the point where it's like it's so much. It's too much escargot.
I agree. I will say I think it is.
You've said stronger things than that. I don't think that's an accurate assumption.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, because escargot is really, for me, it's very extreme food in terms of flavor, and I don't like it. But I like simpler Italian food. But it's not. It's. You would say that it's almost not degenerate, but it was like it's too rich and too overwhelming.
Yes.
But at the same time, with a dream, I don't see it as overwhelming. I see it very subtle and kind of with that thread, but I don't, yes, it's the subject matter, but look, you go to museums and see paintings and it deals with similar subject matters that are saddening or make you aware. Mm-hmm. But I just thought the delivery mechanism on this is so unique that it's really hard to see movies like that with voices like that. So I'm pretty open to it because I'm just slammed with really formulaic shit. And so for once, they use out of focus as kind of an artistic way.
For real reasons, yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I just want
to interject that this is everything I'm about to say about this movie for the next couple hours is so positive. I can't warn people enough not to see it. Don't see this movie. It's so fucking hard. It's so hard. that it's like it's doing exactly what it wants to do. It does it brilliantly, and every time I've watched it, and even just now, I'm a fucking sobbing wreck 4 times. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable, but it is unbelievably unpleasant. Like there is the only thing that you can say is beautiful about this movie is its photography, and it's actually 2 things: it's photography and it's empathy. And
Yes.
and every single thing it's just from the outset raw pain that only gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it's a nightmare. And that's what the movie is. So there you go. So yeah, if it's like the thing is like the reason why I would say I wouldn't frame it as too much escargot because at some point I enjoy escargot.
Like, I do too.
This is like,
and if I saw everything in small doses, it would be a little bit more digestible.
That's what I'm saying. Is that's exactly what the movie does not want to do.
It does not let you digest the food.
It doesn't want you to digest it. It's
I know.
Like
you do actually.
Like
you do.
Well,
you
like
do,
what?
Because that is probably the most beautiful and elegant death scene.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I've ever seen in the film.
And you can say
films.
that is the entire movie is a death scene. Like the whole 3 hours.
But in a way, it's like you knew that she was in peace.
Yeah, it's very.
And I actually was like, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it is
because she'll never escape that, and she'll never escape that. What people do to her, they're all animals. So it's like she kind of did the right thing.
Well, it's a very like I think that this is a very subversive, highly like it is a very how can I say it? It is a bookend or a counterpoint to the assassination of Jesse James. Whereas like in assassination of Jesse James, you are watching this experience happen and you feel bad for what happens. Like this is that, only you are having the experience. Like you are the center of the
folklore. Because that thing, the Jesse James, everyone knows about it, even though they just, it's generations away. Right. And with Marilyn, people identify with just the imagery, and it's generations away.
Yes.
But the reality is, for both sides, that there were humans with mistakes and flaws.
They are exactly like me, is what the movie. The movie,
so
especially,
it demystifies a lot of things, and it kind of makes it real, right. And it's very real.
It makes it very personal. And I think the reason why the movie is so hard, and the reason why the movie is incredibly successful to me, is because this is virtually a first person experience. Like this this isn't happening to Marilyn. This is happening to you. And the movie it's so relentless and it's so intense and it goes so far down that it's not something that people are going to like. If you're going into it because you're like, Andrew Dominik is a beautiful filmmaker, and it's not a movie about feeling any kind of like satisfaction from watching it. Like it's like watching Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Like you get to the end and you're like, no. And the thing is, I'm not saying that it's the same tone. It's not the same tone at all. I'm saying that like it never relents. It never ever lets you have any outside experience at all. It's extraordinarily claustrophobic, and more so as it goes, to the point where people are just gonna, like, many people will bail, and I totally understand it. Makes sense. The too much escargot feeling, yeah, you're probably gonna have that. In fact, you'll probably have it in the first 8 minutes.
Yep.
But if you don't, then it's like nothing I've seen before.
Yeah, it is definitely like nothing you've seen before. It is one of the hardest films to watch.
Yep.
And I've seen some very hard films. It is.
I did not find it hard to watch. I found it a celebration of a life. I saw there's a lot of pain, but at the same time, looking at just how horrible people are, from the president down, people use people, and
sure.
You're kind of like, yeah. It's that is unfortunately what we do, and it kind of makes you very reflective about how culture, media, and what we do, and you lose your individuality, and she also,
and we do it like we are doing it. Yeah, like that's the thing. So like I actually like to back out of it just for a second before we get too deep into the weeds of the movie.
You're sitting down.
No.
Oh, okay.
That this movie was number one for a few days, and it has since sunk off the radar. It is the most despised movie released in years, with a cinema score, I believe, of a perfect F.
No one liked the score, and it's Nick Cave, who I idolize.
This movie is
just got his
no. He's talking about this, not the
everything
music score.
Sorry.
That I don't remember the last time when America was so offended and enraged by a movie, and for Twitter for days and Facebook, etc., wherever you're talking about it, like it's just thousands and thousands of posts about how great Ana de Armas is and how this movie should never be shown to anyone and no one should see it, and it destroys it, like it shreds Maryland, and it's hurtful, and all, like people lost their minds, like Joker level crazy. And I think that
I don't think people are ready to be.
They are not ready for this. Because this is what the two things I'm like, because this movie is directly about what is wrong with us right now. And the reason why we're reacting badly to it is because it exposes our pain directly, like very directly. And it's ironic to me that Blonde has slipped off the radar completely. It's out of the top 10. It's gone, right? People have just shut that out completely. But the top 2 movies on Netflix right now are Jeffrey Dahmer. And one of them is 10 hours long.
Right. And so somehow the story of a serial killer is further from reality.
Yeah. Like
even though it's about a real person.
Right. Like this is phenomenal. Now, I've seen about half of the Jeffrey Dahmer.
I watched half, and it glorified. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the movie. It's a horror movie, and it's a very successful horror movie. There is nothing to that movie. That is just like watching. If you're watching like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, has more to say than Dahmer. Like it is an absolute. It's a very, very nicely made, very well acted, like good movie at what it's trying to do, but it is 100% raw exploitation, like raw, stone cold, and it revels in it. And I'm like, I watched the first 2 episodes, and I was like, there's 8 more hours of this.
So what was the exploitation? The way they just dragged it all on?
Well, they do 2 forms, because I've seen a little bit past midpoint, and apparently like the first half essentially is all the lascivious murder stuff, which is what I watched. Yeah. And then the second half is like exploring the victims and defend the more like what happened because of this stuff. And I believe that they think that they are making something, pardon me, that elevates it. Now we're really going to pay attention to the victims, when you're just there lasciviously supping it up with a spoon.
Yeah, I think the problem was, I watched most of it, mm-hmm. and it was well made. I thought the lead was really good.
Great.
And I don't think it was. I can't say it was glorifying, but yeah, there's a little bit of a hero. He's not a hero, but I feel also they kind of stretched it just to make that streaming quota of shows, and it didn't really actually need to be that. I mean, it was like one victim, and the way he did it is like the rest. Keep the complaining neighbor, and his father relationship really says it all, and maybe the guy that's jogging with the bath,
right,
and we started with the one guy he brought back who escaped and captured him. That's it. That's
a movie. And the thing is, like, I'm like I said, I don't have any moral judgment on the movie. Like, it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. It's well made. Like, I think that it overstays its welcome by repeating itself to no effect. And
I think there's also this thing.
But is it a movie or is it a miniseries?
I mean,
it's a miniseries.
It's a miniseries, but it's trying to tell one big story. It's a I call it thin. And the thing is, like, this is if people would talk about it in terms of this is a good trashy horror movie, then I would respect that dialogue, because that's what it's not. It is trash. It's like fucking Last House on the Left. There's nothing meaningful to it. It's just enjoyable to be frightened in a gross way. Like, it's Halloween. There it is. But people, because the guy is a real dude, we have to sort of glaze it with some sort of propriety and say, oh, well, it's a very thoughtful meditation on, well, the thoughtful meditation part is done in the first 45 minutes. And after that, it's kind of just jerking off about killing people. Like, and that's not like, that isn't deep. It may be
real
fun.
People who really died, and who have parents and loved ones who are still around today because they were murdered by this guy, and he was completely shouldn't be. I mean, we have a mental health issue. I think one of the things about with Marilyn and Blonde is that, oh, she's beautiful, and she can't. She should. It's almost like she shouldn't be. As unstable mentally as, say, Dahmer, not cutting people up. She had a lot of emotional and
oh my God, and
issues.
Why?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and she came from a horrible childhood, worse than Dahmer's.
Right.
And she used whatever medium to make herself feel better.
Yeah, because right.
So she was beautiful, but extremely flawed person, and the truth to it is that it was captured. And maybe in a way, you notice how like it really gets more blurry. It's like My Old Neighborhood too, or Just Buy It, where they filmed some of the stuff with DiMaggio. But it was like, as soon as she started taking drugs, the lens
they use it
started blurring out more. Yeah. And
until the end where it's like,
yeah, exactly. And it really is a strong commentary that you're just kind of floating through this, and it doesn't demystify. It does something where there's such a reality to it, even to Kennedy. That's the truth.
Right. Well,
Kennedy was very much like that.
Oh, well, sure, I'm sure that's true. But the thing is, that's the key word in this movie, right? Is that it is not about this is not. It's from a novel. It is fiction. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that is fictional in this, and people are upset that it's not accurate or nonfiction. Right? They're very upset about this. And what it's doing is it is constructing a story of Marilyn from all the imagery we know of Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, like there is the fact is we do not know Marilyn Monroe literally at all. Like we only have the public imagery and story that's available to us. That's it, right? And so when people are shredding this movie for not being respectful of Monroe, what they're really saying is, I want you to be respectful of my story of Marilyn Monroe. Like I have constructed a story that I use for my egoic purposes, which tells me a strong empowerment tale, and I don't want you to hurt that. Like the people that are complaining about it not being factual, like they don't know Marilyn any more than I know Marilyn, and everyone who knows Marilyn is dead. Like the only thing you know is the image of the story, and some of it is true, some of it is not true, whatever it is. And this movie, my core statement about the movie is what this movie is doing is that this is not a movie about Marilyn as a trying to get the details right about Marilyn, right? It is a movie about the loss of self beneath a projection of self, like which we do every day on social media. Like there's the false front we put forward to the world, and the greater the difference between the false front and our actual selves, the more alienation, loneliness, and anxiety we feel, right? Mm-hmm. And it constructs the story out of imagery of Marilyn, who likely suffered this, right? And then it puts it first person, so we suffer it directly, even as we are practicing it against Norma Jean. Like we are constructing a Monroe story around her. Like we're the villains by doing this. And then the movie is saying also, this is what it's like to experience what you are doing to her. So we are also the victims of it. And the movie goes from a larger, as you're saying, like a very wide, very clear lens in the beginning to an extraordinarily short depth of field in the last 20 minutes, because the world is so impossibly distant from you, including her.
Well, she was drugged out, man.
Which is a mechanism of showing that she was
shooting like her barbiturates in her neck vein, dude. It's like that gets there fast, folks, and it's just unbelievable. It's Dr. Feelgood.
When she is popping pills and drinking whiskey, like the cameras, it's like it loses more and more focus on her until she is just a weird big blur, and that is how much we know about Marilyn. Like nothing. Like all we really know, the only in the Venn diagram of what I understand about Marilyn is I understand the kind of pain that she is suffering. I know nothing about her, but I am now, thanks to the movie, entirely together with her on her emotional experience because it is very similar to my own. Like that's what empathy is, right? Yeah. And in the movie, like I think that it's a big ask the movie is making of the audience, and I can totally understand people like at some point it's too much, right? But
why are they children? They can't handle it?
No, it's not that. I mean, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. It's a fucking hard ride, man. And like, at some point, you're just like, I can't go any further. It's like this roller coaster it's been going on for 3 hours. I can't keep on riding the same roller coaster. I totally get that point of view. However, if you don't like, the roller coaster has to be as long as it is. Otherwise, it's not a valid point. It's not going to get off. It's not going to stop when you're comfortable with it stopping. It's got to go all the way through. Otherwise, it's letting you off. It's like, no, Marilyn suffered more than you can even imagine. Like, no, it's got to go all the way to the bottom and say, yeah. So here we are. This is the bottom. And then
well, it's a bottom we already know because everyone knows that she died.
It's a bottom we know, but it's not a bottom we know that we feel or that we have felt similarly to her. Like that is the empathy of the movie. It's like you have been in this place. You know what it's like to be this sad. You are feeling echoes of this sadness right now. And this is the same kind of thing she probably experienced. So if you're talking about knowing Marilyn, here it is. The emotional truth is actually knowing her experience, not the details, not whether or not the CIA fucking or the FBI, gave her an abortion. Like that's all fiction. Doesn't make any difference. The real truth is that you know how this feels, and you are both the victim and the perpetrator of this all the time, every day. And it's an extraordinary thing to say with a movie.
Why would you be a perpetrator?
Because it is constructed of the Marilyn myth itself. Like, because we do not know Marilyn, yet the movie is made up of the imagery that is the mechanism of her death.
No, we know.
I'm not talking about whether it's factual or non-factual. I'm saying that this is made up of stuff that I know quotes about Marilyn. Like if I were to write a biography of Marilyn, it would be these things, and some of them may be right, some of them may be wrong. But like the movie essentially says to you, like, she projects onto other people who she needs them to be. She projects onto Arthur Miller. She projects onto Joe DiMaggio. Like, please be my mythological father, who is unfindable.
Please be daddy.
Yes, please be daddy, which she in fact did call them. As upset as people are
everybody.
About that.
She called Arthur Miller.
Arthur Miller.
That's what he was just saying.
Like she is doing this. She is making them into someone that they aren't. And we are making the whole world.
And they're making her into something.
Yes.
Because you look at Magdalena, she was nothing compared to her. But yet somehow he fell in love with her. And you know why he fell in love with her? Because she seemed intelligent. Yes. She actually made a point. He assumed that she was stupid.
Yes.
Oh, she's not that. And she finally was like, well, I read, Dostoevsky. And they're like, yeah right.
Oh, sure you do.
Really?
Right.
And then all of a sudden, she made him cry. Because it's like, oh, my God, you got something right. How can I miss that? You are intelligent.
Yeah, you're right on the point. You're right on the point.
Yeah, but totally it's just like
this. And the thing is, like, he doesn't even recognize that as her. Like, he sees, oh, she's intelligent, just like my Magda. And then he's like, I'm going to call you my Magda. Like, now you don't know her again. You had one moment where she was in focus for you, and now she's gone. Like, now you're pretending. Why
do you think he married her?
Because he is like, there is an element of connective truth about how he feels about her, but it is fogged by his romance about this other non-existent person.
Yeah, it's like the most sought after piece of ass in the world in the 1950s. And this guy who spends 12 hours a day writing is going to bed with her.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so like
it's power.
Yeah, exactly. And the things like the movie, when I say that, like the movie that we are doing this to her, is like the movie constantly reminds you that you are watching a movie that is fake. And she talks about herself as an actress playing Marilyn Monroe. Like,
okay, so
literally.
Here's the thing. I know, but do you think, like, if the fact that she goes to Mr. Z's office and he basically rapes her, and she's like, okay, I got a job. It's like, okay, she's a willing participant.
She is like, I think that the movie is really represents this really well.
Do we want to get into it before? Because I don't think people have seen this movie.
Like
we already know that no one has seen this movie.
That's right.
This is what we've already defined.
We are having a really in-depth conversation.
Yeah,
I am.
Let's take the audience along with this.
But Eric,
right now.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give context to the people who have not seen it.
100%.
But everybody knows. It's not like it was her experience with Guns of Navarone. She died. Everybody knows who she is.
That's okay, but nobody's seen the movie in the order of the events in the movie and how the movie works. So let's talk about that. Let's step through the movie.
I'm just trying to give it context, Eric.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm just trying to give it context.
But we already covered the context. Just to be, everybody knows who she is. It's almost like But the thing is, that's the thing.
Then we should just shut down the podcast now because no one needs to know anymore.
All right.
No, Chris. But that's silly. My point is, she's the most recognizable figure, like
if
a cultural figure.
Yes,
even
Eric.
Andy Warhol's. So the point is, everybody who's generations away
everyone
from
has
being
an
born,
opinion of Marilyn. Everyone has a story of Marilyn.
Is, and
everyone knows who.
Kind of
everyone
a strange thing, don't you think? Like
so
nobody has pictures of Herbert Hoover.
Yes,
like everything who he is.
Everything you're saying is completely applicable. But what Chris is saying
my point is, could she not need
He's not going to listen to you. Don't worry about it.
We're almost there. We're just going to be gentle about
it. But that's the irony of the whole thing. And I'm trying to point out is that she's the most recognizable person beyond generations. And the veneer is gone.
Yes. And so and I think that all of that is exactly on point for the film and what the film is evoking for us, like to talk about that.
However, and art needs to tear down.
Yes, 100%. And so let's hold that thought for a second, and then let's start at the top of the movie and talk about what happens in the film, like just literally, so we can examine these things point by point. The movie starts with her mother saying, "I have a surprise for you."
Mother starts, and by the way, the girl who plays her as a child is excellent.
Yes,
considering that scene in the bathtub,
unbelievable.
Very, very, very strong performance.
Actress was the actress, the mother. She's so good.
She's terrific.
She was in the one about the sex.
She's a
scientist, the doctors of sex in the 50s. What was that? Masters and
no, it was what's his name?
Masters of Sex. Masters of Sex is the show you're talking about, and the movie you're trying to think about is Kinsey. But she is the Masters of Sex. She's a go-to for HBO. She is used a lot in HBO. She's one of my favorite character actors.
She's unbelievable.
Her name is Julianne Nicholson. She is
born on July 1st, by the way.
And I would like to also point out Dave 3D, just before we get into it, Dave 3D says, on the Maryland adjacent news recently, after the Ukraine bridge connecting to Russia blew up yesterday, the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Oleksiy Danilov tweeted a video from the Kerch Bridge on fire and Marilyn Monroe singing the infamous "Happy Birthday, Mr. President" song. Putin turned 70 on Friday.
That's wacko. That's wacko.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, so yes, it starts off. Now, here's what's interesting about it is they did keep this fairly chronological, right? Another thing to note as you're trying to think about what's going on here, and it's an important part, and we can bring it up at several other points. We'll get into it at simple, but this movie constantly changes from color to black and white, constantly changes aspect ratio.
I know.
Sometimes live, and then this is a big talking point, and we brought up a couple of points, and we can bring it up a little bit later. But it is, so you just have to imagine this thing is taking place. The photography is probably some of the best you've seen in the last 15 years.
Yeah, it's astonishing.
It's astonishing. I mean, really, really amazing, very powerful.
Because unlike the photography that mimics a look, this is exactly a look.
Yeah, and it's not, and also from optical lenses such as the background you're seeing behind us now, but as well the most powerful compositing that you've ever seen in terms of how things are blended together. Yeah. So the visual effects in this is unbelievably strong and very powerful. So just that's some context in terms of the eye candy coming at you.
Yeah. But it is a luminously beautiful movie all the time. It is unbelievable. Just for that. It's something to see.
So the mother is obviously, we can get a quick sense that the mother is a couple things: an alcoholic,
very unstable,
single mother, right? Mm-hmm. And Marilyn is Marilyn's character is as a child is completely accepting of her mother, and in awe and smiles as her mother presents her a picture of her father, who's obviously just some poster of an actor.
Yeah, it's like Douglas Fairbanks or whatever it is. It's like
right, and says, "That's your father," she says, and it's like, "That's my father." And then and then she makes a birthday cake for her and just starts drinking. A lot.
She's hammered the whole time.
Whole time.
She won't she's like, "Don't touch the picture of your father," with your sticky fingers. She's obviously deeply, deeply messed up.
Right.
And you can tell from to refer to our earlier point, like the mother is projecting onto the father an entire story that is likely not
false.
even remotely true.
Right. And so there is a
and her mother was a script supervisor?
Maybe, something like that. But maybe. It comes up as a visual that she is.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there is at one point a fire on the Hollywood Hills, at which point the mother decides to drive her daughter through the fire
to get to
the top of the hill, because the cops stop her and says her father lives in a bunker up there and he's going to keep her
fireproof house.
Fireproof house.
Right.
And
all of Hollywood seems like it's on fire.
Yeah, and it's beautiful shots of them driving through smoke and fire, and the cops are like, "Dude,
Hollywood as hell" is the image that they're going for here.
And the cops like, "You are drunk."
Yeah, I know what it is, lady. And she's just like, "I'm sorry, officer." Like she screams at the dude, and then just suddenly like retreats and says, "I'm sorry, officer, don't arrest me. But I wish you would shoot me." But I wish you would shoot me. Yeah. Like she is suicidal.
I didn't realize that she had such a tough childhood.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember there was another film that came up before. Who was it that saw it? Someone. It might have been Jason, but it was called Norma Jean. And it was this story. It was like a miniseries. It was like in the 80s or 90s that came. Do you remember that movie?
I do.
And it was basically about her mother was really fucked up.
Yeah,
really fucked up.
Well, because there have been a couple of other some pretty good movies about Marilyn, and like they all take the point of view of feeling sorry for Marilyn. I guess is the thing, right? They're just like, oh, that poor woman, Like emotionally, what's happening for you when you watch something like that is you feel like a good person because unlike anybody else, you're the one who cared about her. Like it's a fantasy. Like it creates an emotional fantasy where you go like, if I were there, I would have saved her. That's basically what it says. Like you're the one who's empathic towards her. Nobody else is. And then,
Do you think that started because of Elton John?
I think it's a common thing for many people, but yeah, I think like the way that Elton John. Yeah, like Elton John's projection in Candlewood's a beautiful song. Like he says in the song he doesn't know her at all, right? And there's something about the image of her and the image of her story that is profoundly meaningful to him. And and so he projects all this into her as if he knows her, right? And what he's actually, and this is what I always say about whatever art, is that the experience you get from art, the moving, whatever it is that makes you cry or whatever it is, it's because you're discovering an element of yourself. It's a tool to discover something about yourself. That's what art basically is. That's the mechanism of art. And when you see like most biopics, they are more than happy to go, okay, so the payoff you're going to get is you're going to watch these terrible things happen to a person, and then you get to feel like a good person because you would have saved that person. Like it's a protective fantasy, right? And that's what this movie disallows for you. It says, nope, you're as much a part of the problem as anything, and you're also suffering it. Like these, and so when you said about what happens to her, like there's a little bit of conscious choice going on here. Like it's true for us. Like we are both, like we want to project into a story where she is a victim that we would want to help, but the movie is saying she is not the victim. You are the victim. You are hurting yourself. Like this is something you are choosing to do over and over again. And it does that by making us Marilyn. Like the literal point of view shots over and over and over again. And the only time, like there's also within this opening section, like as soon as Marilyn is shown as a physical person, like played by Ana de Armas, incredible performance. Like there's a shot where she's doing her audition and she's reading this part about like this woman who, like, everything she says is explicitly about the movie you're watching. You know, just like, this is a very frightening, disturbing story about a woman who, and you're like, whoa, this is the movie. But they start doing the read and she's going to yell at her kid, right? And she goes like, you get out of here, right? And the way it shoots this is she suddenly looks over right into the camera and says, you get out of here. Like, you have no right to be here. Like, and you're like, whoa, like it's right at you. And that's because this is Marilyn, in quotes. This is not Norma Jean you're seeing. This is Marilyn. This is the image that was just created that is now telling you to sit down and shut up. And then the rest of the movie, it shows Norma Jean's experience, first person through the camera. That's you. Like the movie is Marilyn is smothering you, and you are Norma Jean. That's what the movie's visual design.
There was that moment where she was auditioning that a guy said, you know, just because she's insane doesn't make her a great actress, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But you know, like maybe that insanity is what made people, and her beauty made her a total contradiction, because people just didn't think 100%. She was smart. And the way she saw things a little different was because she was completely off her meds. I mean, she was really unstable.
The guy says, he goes like when they're just like, oh, that was bad, right? That was bad. You know, and it's like there's so much in this movie.
And she has a great behind.
Oh yeah, like that fucking.
That's what he said.
Dave 3D will back me up on this. That actor's name is Garrett Dillahunt, whom I love, and every time I see him, he's great. But he only shows up to be like the pinpoint asshole when you see him, and he's just like, "Did you look at the ass in that little girl?" And that's all. This is a whole opinion about her entire.
But that's what everybody was. It's just amazing.
That's what everyone thought.
Yes,
and and the doctors just, I'll give her some drugs.
Yep. Who cares? So yeah, like this is from going into the movie, like so much of it is like you are seeing this through like the lens of Norma Jean's vision almost 100% of the time. And so everything in the beginning is like wildly stylized because you're a little kid, you know? And so like it's not just the hills are on fire, which is dramatic enough. It's like it feels like the whole fucking world is on fire. You know, and you're seeing that incredible shot.
In a way, her mother tried to kill herself and she was unsuccessul, right? In a way, she did it very successfully on her terms. Yeah. And I just kind of go back to that, like, there were so many, she kept saying to like Joe DiMaggio, you know, I just want kids. It's like, no, you don't.
She wants to be like what she keeps on saying is that I want to be Norma Jean again. Like I want to give birth literally to Norma Jean. There's a person inside me, inside the shell of Marilyn Monroe. There's a person here, and that literally happens to her. Like
several times.
And
that person is talking to her too.
And that person is talking to her in the voice of the little girl.
What I was talking about, like, what I'm saying is that there was points in it where she's like, I just want a simple family. She could have just ended up with DiMaggio and just gone on with it. But she continued to act and continue to let people manipulate her.
Can we get back to the story?
Yep.
Again, I'm trying to give context to people.
Yep, we'll come back to it. It's good. So right now we come out of the Hollywood Hills experience, and
the mother tries to bathe her in a bath that's too hot, almost hurts her, and gets very, very dangerous,
and tries to drown her.
Tries to drown her.
But the house was on fire.
It
wasn't.
No, this is separate. Like she tries to
drown Norma Jean.
Yes.
Norma Jean escapes naked from the bath, runs to the neighbors.
Yes.
The neighbors tried to help her. It's like, oh my God, I think something's wrong with my mother. Please help my mother. Please help my mother. Right. Which point she turns around and there is the naked mother at the door that's closing the door behind her. Terrifying.
Chilling shot.
Terrifying
just naked, shot. Closing the door. Crazy.
So that's one of the great shots as far as I'm concerned. I was like, the performance is great. The image is incredible. I was horrified.
Terrifying. Terrifying. At which point this couple says, we're going to help you, take care of you, but they can't. So they put her in an orphanage but he says, but I'm not an orphan. I have a mother and I have a father.
Yeah, I'm not
right.
An orphan.
She was put in an orphan. I think that's true. She grew up in an orphan because her mother was clearly not fit for stuff. Right. And then that's sort of where it ends with her childhood part of things, and we go straight to her being a model.
Her reaction.
I'm looking up when her mother died.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just I'm going to look up right now when her mother died, because I'll do it.
Anyway, let's go ahead, Dan. What were you saying?
That in terms of linear storytelling, the reason why we skip all these years, right, is like she goes into the orphanage and instantly the character of Marilyn Monroe is born. Like
is born out of that orphanage.
Is born out of that. And so we don't have to see what happened to her in the orphanage. Like we see the results of that is she is now this character. In fact, like the opening in the presentation of the character in the first place, it says it shows her like in acting class, and you hear the teacher say, "I want you to imagine a character that will be outside of your body, that you will be playing, right?" And then then Marilyn is here and she's auditioning, right? And
she doesn't audition. She goes in. Well, she goes in for an interview with that guy.
Yeah, it's called an audition.
Yeah.
She's
By the way, do you know how much her films grossed in the 50s?
How much?
It's 200 million, which is equivalent of 2 billion today in 2021 numbers.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Bigger star
for 10 years or something, like 11 years. That's crazy. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So she has this quote unquote audition with this. I don't know who it was, but it's basically a Harvey Weinstein type character.
Well, I always thought like they said Mr. Z, and
Mr. Z, is that what they said?
Yeah, when they walk in the secretary. So I thought it was Zanuck or something, but they couldn't say that without a lawsuit.
Exactly.
But it does, like it does. The door doesn't say Mr. Zanuck, but the secretary, who was kind of stiff and knew what was going on, but it's like Mr. Z will see you.
Yeah.
And so she goes in, he gets up, walks behind, he doesn't even say anything to her, walks behind her, looks at her, pushes her down on the desk, lifts her skirt, strips her panties, and screws her right there.
Yep.
Rapes her right there.
Wholesale. That's that.
Done. And so then she gets the part.
This is the thing. And this is
without anything else.
This is where the movie is, takes a dangerous position in that like she is 100% the victim of that scene, it is a rape. It is horrifying. That's it. But there's no nudity and there's no actual there's no lingering on violence. But it is horrifying, right?
Sure.
And then after that point, at some point she's like, I guess that's how it works, and I'm fortifying my position here with this. I'm creating Marilyn as the shield against all of this.
Yes. So the thing that's interesting is that, and this was sort of brought up a little bit in that other film as well with Norma Jean, is that Norma Jean is different than Marilyn Monroe, and Marilyn Monroe is a character in itself that she portrays. Right. But I also think that you're absolutely right. This is like a, multiple personality disorder situation, because you create this other character to escape from the realities of what's going on, right?
Norma Jean would never accept being raped, but Marilyn Monroe is that's my ticket. I will come into being now.
Wow.
And Marilyn Monroe as a persona in this movie is the villain. And they talk about her, Norma Jean talks about her as the villain.
She talks about Marilyn Monroe in the third person.
Is not me, And when she's doing the script read, the script is literally about a cruel, a cruel woman who is trying to destroy this little girl, which is not only her mother and her, but Marilyn and herself.
Right.
And so it is the trap that she is in, is that she has so successfully created a protection mechanism against the horrors of the outside world, that builds up a bulwark against the cruelties of her mom, the cruelties of her absent father, the cruelties of everybody who wants to make use of her, and the cruelties of this fucking scumbag who rapes her. Marilyn is the wall. Right, and it's so successful, and it makes her, it gives her everything she wants, but inside, she is more and more distant from experiencing any truth with anybody, because Marilyn, the Great Wall of Marilyn, as an object, allows no one to actually see her anymore. Because it's too terrifying to face the truths that she's experienced.
Right.
Just so you guys know, the mother was from Mexico.
Interesting.
The father was a gentleman by the name of Charles Stanley Gifford, who died in 1965. He was a executive at RKO Pictures. Right. And she was the negative cutter there, and they had Norma Jean. Yep. She lived until 1985 off of
the
money.
Mother did.
Off of money that Marilyn Monroe left her.
Yeah, wow.
She left her in her will.
Wow, that's bananas.
She was a paranoid schizophrenic, though.
Yep.
Yeah,
and she was her.
That's pretty clear from the movie.
The home she stayed in was in Eagle Rock.
Yep. But yeah, I think, Chris, you're right. It's it is essentially a multiple personality movie. In that, real multiple personalities are extraordinarily rare, but this is a metaphorical multiple personality, in that that she she becomes dependent on the thing that is destroying her, and it's destroying her because it won't, it was initially protecting her because she can hide behind the wall of it, the spot, the circle of light is, that's your space. But eventually it smothers her, just she is exactly like her mother. She's protective and destructive, and she can't escape it.
Right.
And so when it goes into, she gets the part, she gets, instantly well received.
And she goes to acting classes after that.
She goes to acting classes. And another one of my favorite bits is she's so in a sequence, the way this is sequenced out, she is raped in the office. The guy bends her over, and that's that. Sorry to be nasty about it, but that's what happens.
Oh, this movie is very nasty. Just get ready. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's super hard. And so then she's in the acting class a couple of scenes later, right? And she is on the ground, bent over in the acting class, and she is screaming and crying Like she is like unbridled, like having the most horrific emotional experience, right? And other actors who become part of the plot like come to her and say it's okay, and they sort of calm her back down. And the acting teacher is like, like, what were you doing? And she's like, I don't know, maybe I was remembering something. And you're like, yeah, I just saw what happened. We're seeing the inside yourself version of what was happening for you in that scene.
Right.
And she
was remembering the rape.
Yeah, exactly so. And this is where I have to say, like, Ana de Armas is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
It's like, she comes at you like a train. It's unreal. Like when she goes to see her mom at the facility, her mom's old. This is in the same part of the movie. So hasn't seen her in 10 years, and she's Marilyn. She's blonde and all this stuff. When she first sees her mom in a single shot, she runs up right up in the lens and just almost tackles her, hugs her, and starts sobbing. And it's so fast and so real that I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm not ready for this yet. Like she is like Ana de Armas. I don't know what she was doing to rev up for this movie, man, but she's like, she comes in fighting hard. Like I haven't seen a performance in like decades. Yeah. It's just insane.
Absolutely. So, I think it's very interesting. And you brought it up when we were chatting about this, before we did the podcast, but we were talking about this, but she does, she's Cuban, right? So a Cuban playing Marilyn Monroe is kind of interesting. And she does have this, it's very subtle. Well, she does sound like Marilyn Monroe, but her every now and then you can see a little bit of her other character coming through.
Yes.
And that is bizarre and just enough to make you realize that this is all just a work of fiction.
This is one of the great things in this movie, and it's so fucking daring that he did this, because first of all, he's casting her because she's a great actor, right? Second of all, like, she has such a strong accent that no amount of training in 8 months is going to overcome that accent at all, right? And I'm sure that Andrew Dominik knows this, and there's going to be just a little touch of it, and it'll probably really come out when she's extremely mad or screaming. Like, as it's hard, that's the hardest time to hold on to an accent if you're doing that. And it does. And so you have this dual effect, just like you pointed out, like it tells you that this is a fiction, right? Yep. It's sort of Truman Show-ish almost.
Yes. And yes, it's exactly right. It's like the Truman Show, like,
yeah, it is. It's absolutely the Truman Show, right?
Right.
And the other effect is that you're seeing the real person. Like,
right.
You're seeing Ana de Armas, like the real person. And because you're seeing the real person, man, I get emotional on this one. It's like, because you're seeing the real person, that's what you want for her. Right.
Right.
And it becomes really jarring. And it's
interesting because she's not going to get recognized for it.
No, because people hate the movie, and it's like, I'm sure billions of people saw it, but like it will be considered a bomb because it died on the top 10 very quickly. But she is absolutely like this is a top 10 performance in film period for me. I was like, I have maybe Meryl Streep, and
she was married at 16.
Oh, Marilyn?
Yeah, crazy.
Jesus, nuts, dude. It's nuts. Yeah, so like the design of what's happening is, and I think that this is where people have a tough time with the movie, is like the movie never settles down into being a story. Like, it's not like a movie of the week where, and it's just like, oh, and then we find out that like nothing, like it's in order, but there's no story to it. There's no like
it's what we all know, or we're kind of like, oh yeah, it's all recollections.
This is all, yeah, exactly. This is when Eric, you were saying it's a dream. It's totally a dream. Like, you're going from moment to moment in her life, and you're seeing the emotional connections, but the individual facts of whatever is happening in the sequence are not particularly important.
This has nothing to do. Yeah, in fact, I mean,
Well, wait a minute. What is it? It has nothing to do with Dan. You're saying reality
with all the whether like in like
what was
if you're
reality
watching
with her? She
well, that's what. Yeah, I'm not saying this is critical. I'm praising this. This is good. Is that I think that it is difficult for people, and one of the reasons why people have a problem with the movie, outside of like it's very hard to watch, is like I mean like Dahmer is on the terms that people are saying this is too hard to watch. Like Dahmer is way harder to watch in terms of like lasciviousness, right? But it is because you're feeling real emotions as opposed to Dahmer, where I was like, "No, who fucking cares?"
Because it almost glorifies somebody who should not be glorified.
Yeah, and whereas like I'm getting more and more in tune with Ana de Armas in the movie, and
okay, I was wrong, Dave 3 guy.
Like it becomes dangerous for me to empathize with her because it's getting so harrowing, right? But the way to, like if you're telling it in the Dahmer way, right? You'd be saying, okay, so then they go and talk to these guys, and it sets in motion this little plot line, and we go and talk about it, and we go to those guys, and we see that there's some mechanism about the plot that comes back around. It's a plot, like Dahmer is a plot movie, and this is no plot at all. This is simply a sequence of emotions represented in scenes.
I'd say that's accurate.
Yeah, and so like it's unlike what people are used to.
There's no plot. But it's based on a story that everybody knows.
Exactly. And it's in fact, it's using the fact that you know it as the architecture to hang it, right? And like to string it along. And so like it's just like, we're not going to get into fucking side characters and their lives and whether they think, like none of that happens.
No, but what it does is, and it just could be misinterpreted, but it romanticizes a lot of it, not necessarily by making it better, but I mean more like
it's an
abstract.
It's an abstraction. Yeah,
portrait of this, right? This is like the image behind us. It's like a pointillist view of her life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right. What you're experiencing is the emotions of her life, not the facts of her life. It's incidentally factual.
And this movie there's a lot with this and Mulholland Drive that have parallels in this.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to bring up the casting.
Story you already know. How do you tell a story you already know?
Well,
you know?
Yeah, this is how they do it. Like, they allow you, the audience, to supply the order of facts because you know them. Like you know that everyone knows the Maryland story.
Well,
the basics, right?
Okay, hold on.
Look, it's an abstract painting. Hold on, it's an abstract painting the same way as in the Silver Maryland that Warhol did. He did all those Maryland screens in the '60s, and it's just the symbolism of her.
Yes.
Everyone had these kind of like abstract reactions and emotions to it. That's all he did here.
Yeah,
that's all he did was take the iconography of her and play it out in this way that's dreamlike.
Right, and he is using the iconography to create emotions for you that are meaningful to you, like to your own experience. It happens to be that it's likely also her experience emotionally, but we don't know that. We don't know her. Like, we know ourselves. And this is the point of the movie, is to see this in ourselves, not to get to know Marilyn better.
But what we do know, though, is that everybody pretty much took advantage of her.
Oh, without a doubt.
And to a great degree.
Yeah,
down
absolutely.
to the people injecting stuff in her neck because they just were paid to make her keep working.
Sure, exactly. She's a creature, and that's what I mean. It's like she is also like, this is like the fact that we know all this stuff. It's like all the people that.
And I'm going to push back a little bit on the fact that everyone knows the story, because I think anyone knows born in the 70s or earlier know it, but some people in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, which is a lot of people who watch Netflix.
I'm going to take this back, and I'm going to say everyone knows the image.
Yes,
because that's all
absolutely
she is.
knows the image. She is a symbol.
I think we're all in agreement on this. Like, nobody, like, I don't think if you went to somebody who's in their 20s,
they're not going to know her mother was this or that, or mother drove this car.
However, they do have I have definitely debated already online with people in their 20s and 30s about how they feel.
Can you put the mic in front of you like you had before? Because there you go.
So so I've debated with people that are in their 20s and 30s that like they thought that this was cruel to the story, like to the real Marilyn, right? And I'm like, what do you know about the real Marilyn?
Know about Marilyn?
The real Marilyn?
Like,
how do you know who the real Marilyn is?
I know way more.
What if it was just a commentary on the image itself?
It's about
because everyone just knows her as
it is a commentary about the image.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
So that's it. So you don't need to know the story, and there is no, like some people don't know the story. Yeah. It's not about the story; it's about the iconography of it.
That's exactly right, Eric.
Right. Like
that's what it's about.
Right. And you are using the way we use the iconography. It's like when I was debating with people, like they're like, it's so evil to the story, to Marilyn's life and disrespectful, etc. And I'm like, you are creating a story about Marilyn that fits your ego with this. Like, you don't know Marilyn, you're creating a story about Marilyn that you feel good as the hero defending her. Like, that's what you're doing, right? And the movie is trying to say that's cruel, even if your intentions are good. Like, we are constructing, and so because we do the same, we're doing is like, we are also constructing a story out of the things we quote know about Marilyn, but instead of using it to feel proud about ourselves, we are using it to point out that we hurt ourselves with this shit. Like, that we are actually
they do it in very strong ways inside this, where they point back to the audience a lot,
harshly. In fact, we'll get to it.
There's extended faces.
Yeah, there are moments in this movie which are so like. There is a we'll get to. I'll save it to when we get to it. But there's a very controversial sequence, the JFK sequence. That's
a BJFK.
Right. The JFK sequence.
We'll get to that point,
and I'll touch on.
I want to get to basically, we talked about her visiting her mother and how disturbing that was, and what she's trying to do, and her mother basically doesn't give a shit about her, right at all.
And she's like, "Who are you?
Who are you? I don't know you." Yeah. Right. Well, because she doesn't look anything. She's obviously transformed herself, right?
Yeah. And there's an amazing line where she's just like, "What year is it? Like, your hair is so white," like saying like you're old. And so like what you're saying is like, you are me.
Right.
Like you are now me. Your white platinum hair is me.
Right.
Like you have become what destroyed you. And out of this, in the acting class, she meets the sons of Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, and the twin sons of Charlie Chaplin.
And Edward G. Robinson, right? Because
put it here in your microphone.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to
when you do it like this, you I can't.
So here we go. It's because I may be wrong. This is the son of Edward G. Robinson and the son of Charlie Chaplin, but they're basically played as if they're twins. They're made to look as if they're dressed as if they're twins.
They are twins.
Yeah.
Are the actors twins?
Yeah, like the actors are not twins. Okay. But this gets to this, very this wonderful, strange sex scene, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
It's essentially a sex scene in this extremely distorted mirror, right? Which is the metaphor for your experience right there. It's a metaphor for the film. And they constantly talk about how we're like the Gemini. It's like it's like a Gemini, but with three. There's Marilyn, and then there's us. And what the movie is really saying is like, here is two people that are twins, basically these two guys. And one is the one that she's in love with, and one's the sort of sexy one that's off to the side and is constantly worried about image and self-image, right? And that is an externalization of what has happened to Marilyn, to Norma Jean. There's Norma Jean and there's Marilyn, and then there is also this guy who is two guys. Like, right. She is twins within herself. The only difference is that his twin is external and her twin is literally internal.
But they also say at one point, it says, your name gave birth to yourself.
Yes, 100%.
Right. So that's something that's, yes.
And she opens up to this guy and the other guy more than she's ever opened up to anybody, and tells them all of her innermost feelings as far as she can express them.
Right. And to her, this threesome is this is a relationship. This is a thing that she wants. She can have it both ways. Let's just put it that way.
That is exactly what it means. Thank you. Yes.
She can have it both ways.
She can have it both ways. She can have like the kind, caring, good guy and the fame guy who's all about image. Like she can have it both ways. And that is a fantasy. She cannot.
Right. But she ends up getting pregnant.
Yes.
And then has an abortion.
And so the
abortion number one.
and here's where the movie, this is the first big offense that people took, is that the abortion itself is shown as traumatic and nightmarish, right? And the baby that is growing within her is given a voice, like in the Michael J. Fox movie. Yeah, right. And
Michael J. Fox movie. The baby. John Travolta?
No, Michael J. Fox. Dave 3D is going to know what the movie is. Michael J. Fox. It's the Bret Easton Ellis book. Shoot, I can't.
I thought you were talking about Look Who's Talking.
Maybe so, but like this is where the movie is so brilliant, and Dominik is such a brilliant sort of craftsman and image person that he is able, because we've seen all those other movies, and we know how sort of like beautiful and subtle his work is. But there's also, when you're dealing with Marilyn Monroe, there's a lot of sort of kitschiness in the world of Marilyn Monroe, and so it takes things that should be too corny to believe, and it brings them into the image set of what you're watching. Like in this case, a fetus that talks to her in her child's voice, right? And somehow the movie brought me on board with this in a weird and beautiful way. Like this, I was just like, I think I understand this, because it set it up so thoroughly and so beautifully with her inner self that this literalization of her inner self makes sense, because the whole movie is about the literalization of the inner self. Like, so like it makes it all, it blends all this, what wouldn't work in any other movie. He's able to make very emotional and very personal in this by riding this line. It's like when she's having sex and like with the two guys, and it shows her like it shows from beneath the edge of the bed, and she's like over the edge of the bed holding on to it, and it dissolves the bed into Niagara Falls. And then it turns into the movie version of Niagara Falls, and it's like Marilyn Monroe and Niagara Falls, and it gets to see her face as she's like, like getting it on with a dude. Like you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like, what is this?
The best part, one of the best things too, was when they were showing the movie premiere and they were just fast forwarding through the movie.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, exactly. So
that was really cool, actually.
Really cool. And I don't know if they did that because of legal reasons.
No. It's like,
I think it's just like,
it was so cool. Can I read you something? A couple snippets?
Yes.
Arthur Miller, he actually had an affair with Marilyn Monroe in 1951 while he was still married, and then married her 5 years later.
Interesting.
And she converted to Judaism. That's why she was banned in Egypt.
Interesting. Wild.
And then when she died, Miller married another woman he met on the set of The Misfits.
Oh my God.
And they had a child. And one of his sons was with Down syndrome and lived in a home in Connecticut. He never saw him until his son-in-law, Daniel Day-Lewis, took him to go see him.
Really? Whoa. That's bananas, dude. That's bananas. And this is it's a great
here
example.
Is John Huston quote, because John Huston did her first big movie, Asphalt Jungle, and he did her last movie. And he said,
which is The Misfits, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I love
both
the
movies
Misfits.
are incredible.
Yep, it's one I love the Misfits. But he said basically, when she died, he put the blame on her death on the doctors as opposed to stresses of being a Hollywood star. Quote, that girl was an addict of sleeping pills, and she was made so by the goddamn doctors. It had nothing to do with the Hollywood setup. Quote.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, Hollywood set up the doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's just that she was a drug addict. She was a drug addict.
Yeah. She was a junkie because of her situation. She's taking sleeping pills. It's like Michael Jackson that's in the same boat.
he was taking propofol.
Yeah, propofol.
That's a kind of sleeping pill.
Yeah, exactly. It's turn your lights out. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but
help you go to sleep.
Like, but that's a great example of, like, you can see how many other stories you can make out of the Marilyn.
Yeah, you could do the same thing with Michael Jackson.
Yeah, like any of this stuff, it's just like there's so many interesting avenues that you can make a meaningful statement with. And that this movie, like, it shows how focused to me the movie is, in that it's only choosing the things that it needs to say what it's saying.
If you did the Michael Jackson story bio like this, would it be narrated by Bubbles?
I would vote for that.
That would be great. Right?
I would definitely vote for the Bubbles version for sure. Oh,
that would be so cool. Just hanging out at Neverland Ranch.
Well, what's the sculpture of him and Bubbles? The famous the sculpture of him and Bubbles. You know that? I can't remember who the artist. Like you're
talking about Jeff Koons.
Jeff Koons, the Jeff Koons. Like, that is the effect that sculpture has on me is the same effect.
I love that sculpture.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I absolutely love that sculpture.
Utterly brilliant, right? And it's the same effect that this movie has on me when
it's at the Broad.
It's at the Broad. Oh,
you can go see it at the Broad in person, and it's life size.
It's because I've only seen photos of it. And it's really
I've seen it in person. I was like, holy shit.
And it's like it's a very affecting, weird work. Like, it's not like it's an unpleasant work, the sculpture, and this.
Well, it seems kitschy and silly, and then you realize
kitschy and silly.
But here's the thing.
But the effect of it is profound.
Is that because of what he eventually became accused of, and how his life?
I think it's all cues you to think all of those things. Everything to do with him is wrapped up in this sculpture. Like, it's not saying a particular thing about a particular Michael Jackson moment. It's like it's standing aside from it and seeing what this is, and framed as a work of art, and it's upsetting. It's really upsetting. So, like, it has the stuff that he's accused of. It has it has every aspect to it, racial aspects and personal destructive aspects and fame aspects and the real person aspects. And it's all, like, in there that it's for you to discover by thinking about it, and that's what makes it a personal thing to look at. And so, like, that's what I mean. It's like this movie is so sensitive as to what it's trying to communicate to you and with you, is that it can bring in these, like, the image of the dad with the fedora,
Did you guys see that on the links?
Oh, I didn't see it yet. But, like, this is the first thing you see in the movie is her, like, the first scene in the movie is, like, that's your dad. And it's a picture of this dude who's, like,
hit that link that I sent. And that's the father.
That's
Look
the guy.
At the picture.
Yeah. There you go.
Hit that link, the first one.
And so, like, this guy, like, so this, the image of the guy.
I got to do a T-shirt of you just like that. Totally. Exactly. That is totally. Yeah, that's done.
The image of the dude is this corny 1940s, like, tough guy with a hat shot, right? And they use it multiple times in the most sad situations, and the corniness of it makes the scene sadder. Like, it's so weird how he pulls off this effect. And so, like, this is to come back around to the talking baby bit. It's like, if I just described it to you, like, people are like, how can that work? But it utterly works for me anyway. Like, it completely got me, and it solidifies the metaphor of the, like, this is the internal self that she will not allow back into the world. Right. And so Marilyn keeps destroying it. Like, it wants to be born. This real version of her wants to be born. And Marilyn destroys it multiple times in various ways. And we are given the perspective of that being, that the self of the movie is the audience. Like, we are seeing her point of view. The one that is suffering is the child self. And the movie goes so far, and this is what offended people crazily, is that during the two abortions, you get a shot from inside Monroe's vagina of the doctor
so great
sticking the speculum in and opening it up. And it's shocking, right? But it is your point of view. You are the being within her. That is what is happening, right? And so the movie, these creatures outside, these monsters, are threatening you. Like, they are threatening you directly.
Especially as she's having doubts while it's happening.
Yeah, what is the legally of that? I mean, like, if she's on the table, either of you guys answer this, and says, I don't want to go through this, and they're like, sure, and they just put, anesthesia over her and tell her to shut up. Doesn't she have a right? I'm not saying that this is not an abortion decision.
But I don't think this has anything to do with reality.
Yeah,
of course. But if somebody says if somebody says, I'm more asking the question. If somebody says on an operating table before they put them under, I don't want to do this,
then they have to shut it down.
They do have to shut it down, don't they? Legally, they can't just say no.
Today,
it's too late.
Yeah.
But the thing is that she becomes. She's not a person. She's treated as a commodity, like fixing a car.
That's the whole point of the film. Yes. What I'm saying, though, in disregard to the story, in reality, no doctor could ever continue with an operation if the patient says, I'm not going to do this.
Not without breaking their oth. Yeah.
Legally, though, I mean,
that's what I mean. Well, that is legal. You can't do that. But I mean, if we're talking about the reality of the 50s, I believe that they would probably be a little bit more negatively flexible in that direction in that time period. But in reality, just generally speaking, you can't operate on someone who's please stop operating on me.
Okay, Dan, your microphone volume constantly changes. So if you can stay to the side of it.
Yeah, there we go. We'll do this. All right.
So you're constantly
okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. My fault. Oh, Bright Lights, Big City. Thank you very much, Dave 3D. That's exactly right. That's what I was thinking of. But yes, so this is the that she the first act of the film closes essentially with that version of her trying to be born. The self trying to be born, and she destroys it, right? And so people are also upset that they perceive this as a anti-abortion movie, which I don't believe that it is, but I think that has to do with the fact that we are very pissed off about real abortion rights stuff. This is a person trying to deal with their internal selfhood and not trying to make a statement about Roe v. Wade. But it did trigger people, and that's also one of the things that made them mad. And wasn't there a point in the movie where the mother said she tried to abort her? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And
so horrible.
Well, it's such a fucking great scene because the mother's in the tub.
Her mother to say that?
It's when she's talking to the mom in the tub, right? And she's like, and you almost got rid of me, and then I wouldn't be here, and Marilyn wouldn't be here. It's a separate being. Right.
Yeah, that was just that kind of life with referring to herself in third person, the Marilyn. Yeah. It's really,
it's horrifying. And she's more and more distant from Marilyn as she goes on. She had a serious drug problem. Mm-hmm. No one really seemed to say, they try to save her in some ways. I read in some of this with Arthur Miller that he really tried to save her and just move her to Connecticut, but she did, she didn't for some reason. Well, the thing is, man, I think that even in
listen, I definitely think there's some interesting historic facts about Marilyn Monroe, but this movie has nothing to do with historic facts.
Yeah, exactly. It's a dream.
No, but it does have something to do with, I don't think anybody really sees it completely because the book it's based upon was never considered, real all facts.
Right.
And so that's...
it's a novel. It's a literal novel.
Yeah, so that's that. But a portrait of somebody who was famous and had trouble with their own reality and the insecurities and in all those issues. It's a very brave and brilliant study, and it's very kind of it's not your traditional filmmaking. And I love the fact that they did it because I find filmmaking like that very challenging. And it makes you look at things differently. Like I said, I found the death sequence the most beautiful death sequence I've ever seen in film. Just with the leg,
just with the abortion, the first abortion. She's like no, and she gets up off the table, kicks the doctors aside, and runs away. Right, and you're running down the halls after her.
Beautiful.
Right, and then the the halls turn into her house, and it's her house on fire.
The best was when she's sleeping on the plane, and then she gets up and she's going down.
That's when she's that's during the drug.
Beautiful.
It's like,
that
this
stuff was great.
Stuff.
Yeah. I kind of wonder if do you think they just built a little plane model or a set and just into a theater?
And just went into a theater.
Do you know what was really great scene, and no one talks about it, is when she was auditioning, or they were shooting the first Avengers in 1954, and she was against the green screen, and she was like with a ray gun.
They're going to do all the other stuff in post.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think there might have been some LED wall stuff going on.
That's
in fact, I know there was, because I'll tell you why, because I looked at the credits, and one of the big companies that does huge LED wall stuff was massively credited in this.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff.
Interesting you say that. I think when I watched it again, when she was driving through through the fire. I saw a reflection on that flat, you know how the glass of the window of the car. Right. And I saw it and I was like, God, it looks like it was just put in post, or they put a TV there to put the reflection on, because there was something weird about the flame
the
straight
flame
across.
right in front on the front windscreen. Yeah.
That's right. It was like straight across, like, I was like, that looks placed.
I think
they could very well have done that.
But I'm basically Prism Stages. It was a Prism Stage. Anyway, it's one of the companies that does LED stuff. Did a bunch of work on Maryland, which is great, because then they could capture a lot of it in camera, and they did a really good job, because I barely noticed anything. It didn't seem like cheap Mandalorian or Death on the Nile was the worst.
Oh, was it really bad?
Oh,
because the thing is, like,
it looks like
this technology can be used extremely well.
Was it a good film, or is it crap?
No. The LED walls, you could tell that it was a backlight, because it was just
no one does anything but the black levels. So like, it's just like this misty gray flatness.
It wasn't just that. It just was
a TV set.
It's just not. It was just not good.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this film, it's excellent. It's I cannot emphasize how much. Of course,
I'm going to look up the budget.
Because the Dominik is such a not only is he director. Not only is he a brilliant writer and a brilliant director of actors, and he comes up with incredible imagery, he obviously knows how to build things.
He can construct. Yeah, the construction of this is like you have to have that in your mind to make that work.
Exactly. From the moment he wrote it, he's like, we can do it like this. We'll build this like this, and it's going to work like charm.
Do you know what the budget was? Pardon me. I'm just the budget. What do you think the budget was? Don't look up anybody.
60 million.
22.
Jesus Christ! What?
Million?
What?
Yeah.
What? That's insane. That is insane.
That's insane. I was going to push. Yeah.
You could kind of tell, and I'll tell you why, because there was stuff, a lot of the tight interiors and, stuff where...
Well, because it gets away with it, because the movie is so focused on her all the time. You don't need to show all these grand backgrounds, right? So it's very tight, very tight, very tight, very tight, or out of focus. And it has a couple of shots that are really big and beautiful. But I would never have thought below 40. Jesus Christ.
22.
Incredible.
Yeah, that's great filmmaking for 22.
That is, I can't even believe
it's insane filmmaking for 22.
Yeah, but that's really great. It shows what a director is for 22 million.
That is like heart-stoppingly. I was just like, holy Jesus Christ. This guy's better than I thought that he was.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's utterly incredible.
No wonder they got away with it. Honestly, no wonder they got away with it.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You're right.
Because for 22 million, he can do whatever the hell he wants.
It doesn't make it. We're going to make that much money in subscription stuff just because people want to see it.
You got a point there. That they're just like, do whatever you want. We're not going to send anybody.
If it was 60 or 80 million, they would not. There'd have been a few more executives.
Right.
Maybe we shouldn't be looking up her vagina.
Getting somebody to a higher end actor, they would have charged more.
Oh, sure. Like Ana de Armas after this can charge $15 million more.
I don't think so. I think people are going to I think this is going to be hard on her career.
Yeah. It's a hard one, man. I agree.
I think she, but I don't. I think it, and I think that's a shame because her performance is so good.
I know,
but it's the same thing. Like now, think about what we've just talked about. This director now has done 2 films that no one's going to see.
Three films.
Three films. Sorry.
3 films. Like, people didn't see his first one, which is great, called Chopper, but it was also a very small budget. So nobody saw Chopper, but that's excusable. But nobody saw Jesse James, which we all agree is one of the best films.
Chopper's a
best
great
films.
film.
Yeah.
And nobody saw Killing Them Softly, and everyone hated Killing Them Softly for at least 10 years. And the entire time I was going, it's great. It's great.
He's friends with Nick Cave.
Yeah.
And Nick is, I just got his new book. Literally, I bought 2 Cave books today. But the point is, he doesn't give a shit. He's a great artist, and he's making cool stuff. And
this is it, man. This is it. I mean, like, this is like I said, like, this is not. This isn't.
And his peers respect him, and he's got a body of work. And you know who produced it? Is Plan B. That's Brad Pitt.
Brad Pitt is definitely produced it.
So he's buddies with Brad Pitt.
Yeah. So, and Brad Pitt recognizes art for sure.
Yeah. He's an
excellent producer.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's one of the great producers. And
Right.
and I saw.
And he lives in Jimi Hendrix's old houses.
Nice.
Up by the Celebrity Center up there.
The Celebrity Center.
And
do you know where the Celebrity Center is? You go up just the hill.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what the Celebrity Center is, it's the Scientology headquarters, or one of their headquarters.
Okay.
I've been to a wedding there. It's beautiful inside.
Oh, they do.
Just don't touch the E-meter.
As cultish and horrible and money fleecing as it allegedly is.
Nope. That's not where the microphone goes.
Oh, sorry. Here. There we go.
You said, it's a side fire microphone. Just so you know.
I'll figure it out. So the Scientology is allegedly a giant scam. So you would want to hate them, except they do an incredible job restoring all the Hollywood buildings. And so everyone in Hollywood's just like, God damn, that's a gorgeous building. And it's because the Scientologists have paid to keep it restored and looking beautiful.
Right. And that's how they keep the celebrities.
That's how they get you.
Well, here's the story. The story about that is because in the 80s, a lot of stuff was going south in terms of real
they
estate,
could buy it cheap.
You buy it up.
Do you know who the big buyers were in the 80s? Was the Church of Scientology and the Queen of England's trust fund.
Oh, interesting.
So big property owners in Los Angeles.
Yep. That's wild. But yes, Brad Pitt, if you look him up just as a producer, his producing credits on IMDb, like, he would never, like, if he never acted, he is responsible for at least a dozen of my favorite films.
Yeah.
The guy is just incredible taste. And I believe that Fincher was associated with this as well. I think he's in the thanks. So, and like, there are moments when I'm like, this is sort of an alternate universe Mank.
Right.
It's a Mank crossover in Avengers terms.
Okay. So after that scene, by the way, this movie is about 3 hours, and at this point, I've actually as I'm starting to write down this stuff chronologically, we're about an hour and 7 minutes into this movie. So
we're
until
roughly,
we meet Joe DiMaggio, right? And
we're roughly at the midpoint of the movie.
She has her first date with Joe DiMaggio, right?
Yes.
And that's one of the scenes. And it's how did you get your start? Right, was one of the first.
Yes, I guess I was discovered.
I was discovered. Right.
And of course, like, she is flashing back to I guess
I was discovered. And by the way, there's a flashback scene with literally her being raped.
Yes, exactly.
Like, that's how I was discovered.
Like, I was discovered. Yeah, and so and DiMaggio, like, no, it's not a very positive vision of DiMaggio, but
it's just a knucklehead.
He's just a fucking meathead. He's just a meathead. But he is obviously as much of a victim of the way fame distorts her life as anybody.
Right.
And he looks at her as, like, the reason why he falls in love with her is because, like, he falls in love with the Marilyn that is just with the total beauty and classicism and, like,
Aphrodite.
Exactly. He wants a relationship probably with his mother, and this is the ideal vision of that. He doesn't see her for who she is or anything she's saying. He is making up a story that matches. So I think that he is represented as
but they're both doing that too.
They're both doing that.
So he looked at her as this complete vision, right? Statue, practically something that is worshipped by others, but now he possesses.
Yes.
Right. And he also looks at her as innocent and frail, which she does herself because she wants a father figure to protect her. And then she calls him daddy all the time, and literally says, talks about the father. And then he wants to protect her. That's the male thing. Like, I'm going to protect you from your.
You tell them
I
that
will
your
save
husband
you.
said so, right? This kind of shit,
Yeah,
after he just fucking smacked her in the face,
right?
Like, walks in, smacks her in the face for having this, because the twins try to extort him with nude photographs of her,
right?
And
right.
And he is so incensed that he walks in the house, just smacks her across the face. She's like topless, and she immediately starts apologizing for the house being in disrepair. Just like, oh, it's clumsy. I don't know how it got this way, Daddy. I'm so sorry. And it's a horrifying scene.
Sad.
Right.
Like, it's like she is retracted into the most minimal childlike vision of herself to protect herself. Right. And he's stepping into his fantasy of being the protective male. And you tell them that your husband says you're not going to do that movie, this kind of stuff.
Right. And it goes straight into.
But she still did, though.
What movie does it get into right from there?
It's Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
No. Diamonds Are a Girl's
Best Friend. That's right. Diamonds Are a Girl's. Yes. It's like,
it goes immediately from this whole scene of like, nope, materialism.
It's like,
yay.
Yes. It is.
Right.
It's fucking wild, dude. It's
amazing. Like, just how that transition happens. And this they do it quite often.
Here comes Marilyn.
And by the way, another thing that they do quite a bit. Okay, so a couple of things to note, right? The transitions, they have scenes in the movies that she's in, and she is in those movies. And I've paid close attention because I'm like, I can't tell if that's the real Marilyn or not the real Marilyn.
I have no idea.
There's
it was her.
It's totally her. And the only reason that I know that is because her bust line was much smaller than the real Marilyn.
Than actual Marilyn.
Right. So when I was like, is that the real one? It's like, that's smaller boobs. That's definitely
that's the giveaway. But for the rest of the production, that's
horrible.
What's that?
Like, you're such a man. What?
I am. I am the guy with the distorted face.
Dude, this is what the movie's telling you.
Yes, you are.
I'm the old guy who puts her hand on her knee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Dude, yeah,
but it's true.
I'm Mr. Z in The Office.
Dude, it's so nasty.
I'm actually trying to be a little bit more pointed about it. And I'm sorry that I had to say that's what that allowed me to do it. But it's really hard to distinguish her from the real Marilyn in those scenes because she is so freaking good.
I don't know what they think.
Compositing is really good. I don't know if they did.
Compositing is really, really good.
Unbelievably good. And to the point where I'm like, what the am I? And her acting is like, that's exactly how she was in that movie.
When she, especially when she closes her eyes, when she's singing in black and white, and she's up at the microphone and she's like doing this, like she looks exactly like Monroe. Like it's really freaky for a moment. Like she just becomes so visually exactly like Monroe, and my reaction to it was fear. Like it was like she's being subsumed by Marilyn. Like she's being so completely Marilynized.
She's so good. I have gained respect for that actress because I thought she was. I kind of liked her in. I thought she was great in Blade Runner 2049.
Terrific. Yep.
I thought she was an entertaining person in Knives Out as well.
Yep, she's the best part of the movie for me.
She is the best part of the movie, but it's at the same time, it's like it wasn't necessarily a challenging role, but she was very good in it. Right,
easy swing, but it's still
easy swing.
Easy swing.
My favorite.
I love the way you pull a little DiMaggio.
That's right.
Hey, she's an easy swing.
Yeah,
he was an easy swing with Marilyn.
But she knocked it out of the park.
She just.
No, I'm sorry. I knocked her out of the park. Sorry.
Yeah. But my favorite thing in Knives Out is the last scene where she has the mug.
Oh, the cup. That's the home run of that movie.
Get out of my house.
Yeah, like that's so fucking. Like I'm not a huge Knives Out fan, but her plot.
Oh, Lily loves Knives Out. Yeah. She's like that's her go-to comfort movie.
I think it's a good fun movie. It doesn't get, for me, like it doesn't really hit until she becomes really more involved as a central character.
Right.
Then I'm like, okay, now I'm on board. All the other characters are fine. They're fine. And I like what's his face doing his bad accent. It's funny. But I'm looking forward to Glass Onion. I bet that's going to be good. It looks like it's.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Glass Onion.
That should be good. It looks like it's doing a riff on. I may be wrong on The Last of Sheila. Which is a pretty rare mystery movie to be referencing, but I really love Last of Sheila, and so that's kind of cool. But anyway, yes. So like she like the moment it instantly goes, diamonds are a girl's best friend, right? Like it's like a slap in the face. And then DiMaggio, like out of that you have what's the
whoa. There's just one important line that she says.
Yes.
I think it's right after that. She goes, "For this, you killed your baby."
For this, you killed your baby.
Yeah, what was that? That was
Your
like
microphone
really
again,
powerful.
Dan.
Like,
Your microphone.
Sorry. Yep. I'm here.
Don't move you. Move the mic because you keep moving yourself. There you go.
All right. Yeah. So for this you kill, because she's in this giant fucking auditorium. Everyone stands up in this great big beautiful shot. Everyone's applauding, and she's trying to smile and this is what she's always wanted, right? And then she says to herself, "For this, you killed your baby." And which if you replace the word baby with self, then that's what this movie is.
Yes.
Yeah. For this, you killed yourself.
I'm not trying. Politically speaking, I can understand how it's very hard to think about this but the point is, those choices that are made by women for those things are extremely strong, powerful choices that can't be taken lightly.
Choices. Yeah, exactly.
And I know that I'm saying this as a man, and this is not appropriate for me to think about, but these are choices that are very hard to make. And I think that this film kind of points out some of the tough choices that Marilyn had to make. Mm-hmm. And it's hurt. But the fact is, what I think this film is saying even more strongly is that she didn't even have the opportunity to have that choice.
Yes.
She wasn't given that choice.
Right. Yeah, because they were given pregnancies that she loses. She doesn't choose.
She doesn't choose those choices.
That's right.
Right. And so I think the
just
choice.
Like she's like, I want to leave Hollywood and do this. Everything she said she wanted to do, she never did.
Yeah.
And so so the movie is like she tries to find a safe harbor essentially in, say, DiMaggio. Like, here's someone who is also trapped by fame, and maybe we can.
He's a father too.
He's a father figure, just like she's always like the fantasy father from the beginning. And it's like, daddy issues are real things, just like daddy issues are. Yeah. Like, these are real things for people. And and she is absolutely destroyed by this need, and she'll perform in whatever way she needs to secure it. And he is fitting into this, like, well, I will perform this way now because you're giving me the excuse to act like a big fucking gorilla, know, and because that's what makes me feel like a man and all this kind of jazz. Right. And of course, her success is something that he cannot handle at all. Like, her meaning Marilyn's success, even as far as she is saying, that's not me, doesn't make any difference. Right. Like, he is saying nobody who is like looking up your dress cares about you, and he's right. He's
but he was old school Italian, and it was like respect and like the men, like she was property. He is right. And he couldn't control. He is telling himself a story about her that has nothing to do with her, and that's that's a big part of the narrative. I wanted to talk about that. Now, there's a couple of really good, important points about this, because one, he proposes to her. Right. Mm-hmm. Now, as we mentioned before, the aspect ratios constantly change. As he proposes to her, the walls squish in like to a different aspect ratio. Now, so that one is an obvious one, but I'm wondering, because you think, it goes from black and white to color, or from color to black and white. This is changing constantly. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do we know? Do you know? I was trying to figure out the logic of when. I honestly think he was an artist with a palette. I think I saw some behind the scenes stuff which I had shared with you guys earlier this week. I think he shot and really just kind of montaged and created this mood and story. And with the budget that low, he probably just had free reign to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah, I think. But I was trying to think if there was an actual logic between.
I think he was just going by mood, or probably sitting with flame guys. Just going, let's do this.
There's an emotional, I think that there's an emotional idea behind the choices for there's an emotional consistency behind those choices. It's not super literal, but it is because he needs to create a particular, especially all the black and white stuff, there's a lot of it when she's on set, and when she's shooting, and so you're seeing these very, it makes everything very romantic, but very, very harsh, and very isolated. Like she's always off on a little island of light and stuff like this. And then there's the stuff in the end, like where it's like everything is full of light all the time and very narrow focus, that kind of stuff.
Go ahead, Eric.
Could it be for the exterior stuff, not only to give a sense of the period, but when you're shooting like that with a budget like that, exteriors, it's just set up some lights. You can real high contrast, and with the way the cameras are shooting now with light, just get something really gritty and cool, and it will pass.
Oh, yeah, I think that helps for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Like the great shot of when they drive up to see her, seeing the giant 50-foot Marilyn sequence is like, it's gorgeous.
Yes,
and it's also symbolic. It's like
very symbolic
woman.
Right. So DiMaggio proposes her. She gets married, which transitions. He calls him daddy. Transitions to that movie. Now, do you guys remember that movie is? That movie's The 7-Year Itch, right?
Yep.
Which is specifically, for those of you who don't know what the metaphor is, because you may be a little young, 7-year itch is that in the 50s, there was this concept that after you've been married for 7 years, you have an itch to
fuck around
and have an affair, right? And so the story of the 7-year itch is this guy who is married for 7 years and then runs into Marilyn and tempts him to have an affair, at which point she walks over a subway grate, and her dress goes up. At which point, when they do that scene in the movie, just like it's happening in a movie, and as it goes up, this massive audience of men appears in front of them.
So cool.
Yeah.
This incredible transition where it's like, my dress is going up, and then 1,000 men leering at her. Yep. Flash bulbs going off everywhere. Just like, this is the event, like the freaking moon landing is happening,
exactly.
right?
Like it's all like this lascivious wall of
it's like this male gaze at such an extreme, and it's just brought over and over in like slow motion, constantly happening in front of you. Like, really look at the leering nature of this with this very beautiful, dramatic music behind it, right? Like,
and the camera's super low and looking at her, and she looks exactly like the 50-foot tall woman structure that she saw in before. Like, this is the creature Marilyn. Yes. This is the monster Marilyn. Like, here it is live, and
might as well be the attack of the 50-foot woman. In fact,
exactly.
And so it's a very, very. Now, I don't remember if this was it or if it was in another premiere. I think
there's another premiere where things get even weird.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the other premiere.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is sort of the symbolism of, like, that's the end of her relationship with DiMaggio, because she is out. He can't control her anymore. Yeah. She's not the
Marilyn defeats DiMaggio.
Right.
Marilyn the construct.
Go deep.
Yep. That's it. He's out. Yeah. And then her response to this is, I want to be, her response to the movie, right, to 7-Year Itch, is she wants to be a legitimate actor. Like, she doesn't want to be she doesn't want to be Marilyn. She wants to go to New York and study.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she does this. And you see her in 51. You see her acting on a small stage and doing a reading with other actors of played by Arthur Miller.
Right.
And Arthur Miller is in the audience. And Arthur Miller is like, Marilyn Monroe?
That's not my Anna.
That's not. No, fuck
Magdalena
this.
or whatever.
Yeah,
that's not my Magda.
Yeah, not my Magda. And he's like, fuck this. And he goes out and has a drink with her or whatever. And he is he is obviously he's one of the great playwrights of all time. And so he is this tremendously intellectual person, and it's the opposite of film. It's of what, especially the films that she is in, right? And so this is the truthful environment she wants to be in. She's like, I'm meeting Arthur fucking Miller, and he is going to understand me because I have these observations about the deep things that he said in his play. And she says, here are the deep things I observed in your play, and it seems like you've been inspired by Chekhov, and Chekhov is very meaningful to me, and I'd like that. And he's like,
distrusted her first.
Yeah, and he's like, you fucking read Chekhov, don't lie to me. Who told you this? And he gets conspiratorial. Does it fucking what's his name?
Kazan.
Kazan. Was it Kazan? Did Kazan tell you to say that about my references to Chekhov? And she's like, no, I read the play. I thought of these things myself. And he's like, sure, I guess so. And then she says, no, but it's for real, because you have Magda, reads the letter, but Magda can't read, so she must be making this up just to make him feel better. And he has a fucking breakdown. He didn't realize this about his own fucking work, you know? And immediately, it's just like with DiMaggio. It's just like for a moment, he sees who she is and then immediately transposes his story onto her. She's like, good, I can project my story onto you. And he goes like, you're my Magda. Yes. Can I call you my Magda?
Right.
And you're like,
Great.
Here we go again. You know, like she can't be, she's constantly searching for someone who will recognize her for herself. And no one will do that. Like people do not recognize the person inside her, like no matter what. And even this kind, incredibly talented, very smart writer, he's got his own fucking problems and he projects onto her just like DiMaggio did. And then she projects onto him.
Well, on top of that, they do sort of a little montage of their lives together, which feels like an Instagram story.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, and they're all smiling and doing this, and they're like living in the countryside and by the seaside or wherever they are, you know, completely fucked up.
And I just want to cut in really quick. Dave 3D says Dominik's reasons for color versus black and white and blonde, quote, everything is based on images that already exist in the imagination, some in color, others in black and white. So if we base a sequence on black and white photograph in a certain format, we record that scene in that format. If it's in color, we do it in color. If there's no if there's no reference, we shoot widescreen. Or something. So like he is sticking to the idea that this story is constructed out of imagery that you are already know familiar with.
We talked about that earlier.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. That's really awesome. I had not seen that quote. That's
okay. All right. So
but it does help the budget because 22 million.
It's great.
Is
sure. That's
crazy.
That's one of the greatest feats of filmmaking I've heard in.
It is years. Though. When you hear that, and you're like, what?
I thought that this movie, when you say something looks like $1 million, this looks like a fucking $1 million. This is one of the best looking movies in the past 25 years.
Yeah. At which point there's a miscarriage, right?
Yes, she has a miscarriage on the beach because like he is trying to get her to come down to the beach and socialize with his friends. Like, be part of my world now. You know, and so she's going to play the hostess. She's going to play the role of the hostess and bring sandwiches and drinks and all this stuff, you know. And on her way, she trips with carrying all the shit on the beach, and she has a miscarriage because of the fall.
Right.
And it's another one of these beautiful moments where it's just like the imagery is so it's both really garish and really gorgeous simultaneously because she's wearing this like rose print dress and she falls. And like one of the roses just gets redder and redder and redder and redder and spreads and spreads and spreads. Right. And like if in the hands of any other lesser filmmaker, that wouldn't work at all. It'd be too far. But he makes it so personal and beautiful and strange that it works perfectly. It fits the Marilyn ideal. Like the tone of the work is always in tune with her. He's not trying to force her into his tone. He's trying to meet her in the image that we know of her, as Dave pointed out. Yeah, it's really, really incredible. So yes, another miscarriage. And this sets her off down the path of trying to numb herself out. She's like,
so this also does, you know, a bunch of photographs as well. This is the scene where, and she does the song, I Want to Be Loved by You, right? At that moment, right? So, wait, is that? Yeah. Okay. I think so. Which is the Some Like It Hot scene, right?
Yes. Yeah. And she loses her mind.
Boop, boop, be-doop, you know, and that's the song that she sings in Some Like It Hot, at which point in the middle of the song, she loses her mind. They drug her up real good.
One of the most fucking brutal ones. That was the scene that upset me when like getting injected in the neck and she's like sweating and the camera's like stuck to her.
Just so crazy.
Oh my God. It's fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
It's so horrifying. But like, again, there's an incredible shot. It's just a brilliant way to capture this emotion. Is like she like is like spaced. This might be on the plane, I'm not sure, but anyway, like it's in this section where she sort of passes out. The camera is directly attached to her.
This is on the plane thing.
Is this in the plane? And like the camera falls sideways with her.
Oh no, this was right. So this is specifically, you're right. After that or the something like a they inject her, she falls and bounces back up into her house.
It's like the Instagram things where you see like really someone
I slowed through that. And it's not. It's really creative shot because it's not so out of.
Because it feels like
it slowly.
It feels like she falls over and then springs back up on the other side of the screen. It's like so disorienting, and it's just a beautiful edit. And it's like my love of Dominik is that he not only understands the emotions for the actors, he understands how the visuals are going to produce emotions for you. You know, like he's going to disorient you, which is going to connect you to her performance.
Right.
Like he's not just filming her being sad. Like he is going to replicate this as a physical event for you,
right?
And it gets fucking completely overwhelming.
And then she walks into her house, and she this is after she crashed her car, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Another great scene.
So she crashed her car, and she's walking to the house, and she opens the door, and this guy's face is all blurred.
Yeah,
and it's like she says, "Who are you?" He goes, "I'm your husband."
I'm your husband. Yeah,
and you realize it's actually Arthur Miller, but to her perspective, he's just a blur.
And to like the setup, you like said, she crashes her car when she's driving, and she's completely drunk, fucked up on drugs and everything. Like driving like all over the place, and she's looking out the window and just seeing family after family go by and saying like, "That man is
that's my father. That man's my father.
That man's my father." And then then she drives up, smashes the car, and then goes into the house, and she can't see who her husband is.
Right.
So like that like the one thing that she attaches to her relationships is that she wants father figures, and now he's not
the father figure. And then exactly. One thing I want to remember is like in the very beginning of the film, the mother says, "We were so poor, you slept in a drawer." Right.
You slept in a drawer.
Right.
Yes.
And so she puts. She's had an abortion and a miscarriage at this point. And so the phone starts ringing. She doesn't want to talk on the phone. She takes the phone, she stuffs it in the drawer, closes it. And every time the phone rings, it makes the sound of a baby crying instead of the phone.
It's so nuts.
And it was
crazy,
like,
yeah, because like, and in the opening, it's one of my favorite shots is like you see, because it's always showing the point of view of the little girl, like of the self, right? It's always of the self that wants to be born, right? And the mother's saying, "Do you know what happened with who used to sleep in this drawer?" Right? And you're seeing the camera's inside the drawer, looking up at the mother. "You know who used to sleep in this drawer? You did. She's saying, right? You don't see Norma Jean in the shot. Like it's telling you used to sleep in this drawer, and then it closes the drawer on you with you in the drawer. Like you go and you slide back into the fucking cabinet, like and you're just like, what the fuck is this? So by the time the phone is ringing and the baby is crying and you're looking at the drawer, you're like, I've been there. I've literally been there. I am the baby in the drawer. Yeah, it's fucking wild, dude. I can't even believe that he pulls this stuff off. It's like it's so deft and so beautiful all the time. Like he's like carries the emotions from one scene to the next over and over again. Really, really incredible. But yeah, so like she is now highly dependent on pills, drinking all the time, starting to talk out loud to herself.
Guys, keep talking. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
keep talking.
Are you going to go get a barbiturate injection in the neck?
Right, exactly. Camera's going to follow you. I'm like watching this movie multiple times now. Like
It's so brilliant, dude. And the fact that so many people hate it and can't see it as an interpretation or art, I know. It's nuts, dude. It's like
I try not to get mad about it. I try not to have mad arguments with people. I try to get them on my side with it, right? I understand that it's a fucking hard watch. I understand it's a really painful movie, but that doesn't make the movie bad. Like, I know it's painful. That's the idea of the movie. It's trying to connect you with some very painful feelings. But it's not exploiting Marilyn. It's connecting with you. That's the whole idea. Yeah. It's unearthing these feelings that are yours. That's why it's overwhelming. And people don't know what to do with that. They're like, I'm feeling these terrible feelings and I need someone to blame.
Yeah, but it really shows where people are culturally. They're just not into.
Well, that's why I think the movie's really important. And like when people look back on this movie, they'll see it as like, this is a really interesting cultural object, because it was shredded and kicked to the side, when actually it speaks very strongly to the experiences of the people who were watching it at that time, and that's why it's upsetting. And I think that this is like I said, after I watched it a bunch of times now. I've talked about it with Anne over and over again. Like, I couldn't stop talking about it for a full week, and I finally said, I was just like, this is the Apocalypse Now of biopics. Like, you just can't. It's just like like, it's so fucking overwhelming that you don't. It's hard to know what to do with it. Like, it's so beautiful and says so much, and it's so intense. That even with Apocalypse Now, everyone, when Apocalypse Now came out, it was a little more kindly received. But even then, they're like, well, the last third is terrible, and he just goes off the rails. I'm just like, I think by that point, your fucking jug was just full. Like, that's just where it is. Yeah. The movie is like, it's such an emotional and visual assault. It makes, like I said before, it's like, it makes the visuals the emotions, and then the visuals are fucking out of this world and very upsetting. It's like plugs right in.
I would almost suggest for people, if they're nervous about going into it, it's almost watch it with the sound off.
Oh yeah, yeah. But actually, that's a great idea. That's a
good idea.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
Because you're going to still look at every frame as like a painting.
Give yourself.
I love Nick Cave, but
yeah, I mean, the music is beautiful. Music is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that's like, so I try to have like empathy with people that have reacted negatively to the movie. Where I get frustrated, right, is with actual film reviewers, like the New Yorker and other people that shredded it, and the reviews are so thoughtless and shallow and self-serving, and they have no interest in trying to understand the film. They only want to be proud of themselves for destroying it. I'm like, yeah.
But that's isn't that everything in social media today?
Yes, yes. It's easier. It's safer. It's safer.
Yeah, every social media feed, when they're like, look what I did to Donald Trump. Look what I did to
I look at
Republicans or Democrats or libtards or whatever they want to call each other.
I mean, it's like, if you look at any, like 90% of movie stuff on YouTube is just like, look at how stupid this classic movie is, and here's all the things that are wrong with it, like, for hours, literally hours, and this is what dominates discourse. I'm just like, you can't protect yourself from emotion by saying something is stupid. You can't. You think you can? You can't. Like, what you're doing is fucking short. Like, you're selling yourself short and denying yourself the thing that you actually need. Like, embrace what the experience is. Stop trying to, like, keep a distance from things that are important to you. Otherwise, everything becomes meaningless. And so you get shit like, Cinema Sins, which is extremely popular, where they just literally they clip through a movie really fast, and they tell you everything that's stupid about it. Here's the 175 stupid things about Casino. Like, what the fuck is the point of this? Don't watch it if you don't fucking like it. Who cares? Or if you don't think it's good, then try to talk about it in a way that I can see why you think so and understand it, yet you're not assaulting me with your opinion is better than mine. Like, try to talk to me about what you're feeling about it. Then it's good. I mean, there's plenty of fucking great reviewers. When we used to have great reviewers, like Pauline Kael, for instance, who I have plenty of problems with in all sorts of ways, but like, she was a great reviewer, great writer. She would hate a movie that I love, but I would still read these things and I would learn more from the movie, learn more from her review about how I love the movie. Like, I would say, like, that's a really good point. I think
Marini keeps saying that algorithms are writing reviews right now, and Marini, I agree with you, but it's not specifically algorithms. It's people that are trying to get as much SEO. SEO is the killer.
Yes.
Right. Which is search engine optimization, for those of you who don't know. So it's literally, you're trying to find the keywords that make things work so that you get on a higher percentage on the YouTube search. And there's ways to do that. One is, we all know that negative gets better clicks than positive.
Rage clicking, at very least, it's right. I was actually,
and if you like a movie, by the way, if you like a movie and you want to write a review about how you like it, you have to make it negative about the people who don't like it.
Yeah, you have to destroy those people, right?
Right.
Which is what I'm saying with with people that were just like, I can't watch Blonde, or that was too much for me, or they're angry at the movie, or they're like, oh, it was trash, and I don't even think about it. Like, I totally empathize with that. I don't agree with it, but I totally get it. It's not like I'm saying it's not that bad. Like, holy fuck, it's bad. Of course, you don't want to see it. It's like I'm recommending you be in a car crash. Like, don't do that. Like, you're not wrong to not want to experience that.
Listen, and this is kind of what I was trying to say. I wasn't saying that it's a bad movie, but I do say that sometimes it feels like too much escargot.
Oh no, I totally feel you, man. I mean, like it's like
it's just a lot to digest in a 3-hour period. Yeah, it's like, so, and it's like, because you feel the dread. The dread is
horrifying.
Real. Yeah. Now, listen, I like a good sad movie. I like to cry. Yeah, but this is harder than crying.
Not like this. Not like this.
This totally. this Manchester by the Sea is a much more relaxing film compared to this.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, it comes into the realm of like, I love movies so much that I will watch movies that I literally would say, I'll tell people not to watch them. Like, I'll be like, don't fucking watch that. You're crazy to watch that stuff. It's like people with hot sauce. If you really like hot sauce, you're like, oh, it's fucking great. Don't actually eat that. It's gonna send you to the hospital. It's the way that I think so thoroughly that my level of openness to be abused is unreasonably high. Right. And for the three of us, like, we love movies, like, super duper. But even for me, like this is like, you get to the last third of that movie and it's like, oh my God. Like, we're way past, like you're saying, the Manchester by the Sea point.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. So I want to bring up, I do want to bring up a point, because Ron makes a very good point. So Ron in our chat says, nothing that a man directed this. I recall the end of Thomas Dolby's song, also a man, Airhead, saying, it was not us that made her, it was men that made her that way. Right.
Sure. Right.
Still, it's troubling to me that that men are so into this movie and men are so into Marilyn. And I'm curious about JCO, who wrote the book, thinks about the adaptation, though hers is the actual story as written by a woman.
I can tell you the answer to that right now. She thinks it's a great work of art.
She thinks it's a great work of art, and she also said it's an amazing adaptation, and it's not for everyone. Yeah. She said it's not for everyone, and I think that's the case.
I think that like what
and I don't think men should be villainized for liking this film because men like it.
Well, but to be simple, like to be simple,
it's not men. It's by the way, it's not men. It's artist. An artist took a piece of work from another artist and he interpreted it.
I agree, but I also think that Ron does make a point that majority of women do not like this film, even artist women.
Yes.
I think it's too hard for them to like this film. So, right, especially in light of Roe v. Wade that happened.
Right, absolutely.
Way too freaking hard.
This makes total sense, right? This makes total sense. If we are talking about like movies in general, not this specific movie, but we're talking about movies in general, like, then everything they're saying is generally quite true, like the male gaze, etc. Like, all this stuff is true. This specific movie is actually in complete agreement with you, and that's what it's trying to say.
Right.
And it's saying it so well that it's very triggery in a hugely upsetting way.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. And so, like, the thing that what has been really sort of train wrecky for me to read is people shredding this movie, saying how this man, how can this man, they make this movie, et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, the amount of discrediting of Ana de Armas's artistic value in this process by people who believe they're being feminist is astonishing. She is an equal partner in making this movie. She is an equal partner creatively. She is just the visionary that he is, right? And between her and Joyce Carol Oates and Andrew Dominik, who happens to be very skilled at being a filmmaker, like extraordinarily skilled, like, we experience this incredible pain that's very honest. And it hurts so bad that we want someone to blame.
They think that she's letting herself be exploited, which is exactly what she's doing because she's playing Marilyn.
This is what the movie is about. Ana de Armas has spoken about this openly. And like, this is not me
she has to speculating play that character.
Like, she has embraced this for this reason. She intends to say this in partnership with Dominik. Like, she's not a fucking moron. And I'm not being angry at you, Bron. Like, I'm just being overall, like, people inadvertently treat her exactly the way we treated Marilyn. Like, she's a fucking idiot, right? Who couldn't possibly have made her own artistic decisions. You know Chekhov.
Well, yeah.
You know? And I'm just like, in trying to fight the good fight for a real reason, you are destroying an actual artist's work. Who you say you would want to prop up. Oh no, she must have been drugged somehow.
Let me ask you this. Like, I saw a lot of this too. I don't know if you guys saw it this way, but it's like there were so many real points in the film where she's like, I'm going to stop. I want that house in Connecticut. I just want to be a mother. And she never pulls through because for me, it was like, yeah, she really loves her drugs. It's like being Marilyn is a drug, and then she gets to she shoots up and whatever.
Well, and she doesn't know who she is.
Loves drugs.
She has very small moments of
lucidity,
not just lucidity. Sorry, of strong presence. Mm-hmm. One, obviously, we talk about her actually pulling off the casting where she makes people cry. We talk about her what she's doing with Arthur Miller and her conversation there. Also, there's another scene where she complains about the fact that she's only going to be making $5,000 on the film, and it says the movie's called "Gentlemen Prefer Blondes."
I'm the blonde.
I'm the blonde in the title. I should make $100,000.
Jane Mansfield's making
I just want to backtrack so at least there's clarity in what I said. Yeah. She really is a drug addict. And she loves the fame and the drugs. And that's what drives her. And she doesn't make decisions that would save her. She's
absolutely not. But I think what's more important, to bring it back to what Ron is reflecting back. I mean, Ron has not seen the movie. I should note that because he said it earlier. But he's reflecting back what he has heard about the movie and not actually seen it. Right. Which is what a lot of people are doing.
Yeah, because
so they're actually going out there and saying this is exploitative of this, and I've heard this is this, and so therefore I refuse to see it. Or it's the same thing they say about the Joker. It's like this is a blah 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 blah.
Right. And the thing is, like with something like the Joker, like I will look at the Joker and say, like, I like the Joker. It's a pretty good superhero movie. Like, I didn't find it very deep or very exciting. Like, I thought the performance is good. Its point was a little vague. It's a little bit sloppy, but for a superhero movie, pretty good. Everyone lost their fucking minds. Like, everyone was both sides. So like, oh my God, it's a masterpiece. It's not. Let's not go that far. It's not that great a movie. It's an okay movie, and it's
King of Comedy is a masterpiece.
Yeah, King of Comedy is a fucking masterpiece.
Yes.
Joker is not a masterpiece. Joker is a pretty good superhero movie.
Right.
That's its own thing. Right. There's no reason to flip out about it. But what people were flipping out about it is the fact that it stirred up their fears. Right. And they don't know how to deal with it. Joker irresponsibly doesn't help you because it's not well made enough.
Well, I think what people want, right? In a situation like a movie like Marilyn, what they normally want is they want you to say, oh, but she was a powerful woman. She was this and that, right? And therefore, that's how I feel good about Marilyn. And I was like, she mistreated? And that's what
your power fantasy.
And that's your fantasy. And then they don't get that. And what they get instead is what happened and how she became that person, which is what you're talking about, Daniel. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very strong. And that's really hard pill to swallow, which is easier to do, I think, as a man, because we can see it.
I completely agree with you on this,
right?
And
therefore, do I feel guilty about that? Of course, I feel guilty about that, which is the whole point.
Yes, like the movie does not let the movie, certainly as a man, the movie does not let me off the hook at all. I'm very much on the hook on this movie,
right? And I should and that was actually
very aware of it.
That, and it says it very specifically on the very next scene that we're left off, is where it's at the premiere of Some Like It Hot. She's walking down and is super slow motion, of everyone cheering at her, and all of these men are looking at her and cheering, and their mouths are just getting distorted to huge, monstrous mouths.
Horrifying monsters.
And
she has to keep her composure.
She has to keep her composure as men are just thinking of all kinds of horrible things about her.
It's not you keep her composure. She's
playing a role. Right.
Yeah, what they want.
Yeah,
so she's an
exactly. This is the
I feel like what I was trying to say earlier is that she does that because she's an addict.
Yeah, this
other character and all the drugs, it's freaking good.
To combine what both of you are saying, right, is that she is like what is hard for people to accept in the movie is that she is shown to occasionally make use of her agency to make her life better, but is largely shown to be dependent on the drug of Marilyn that she created.
And the drugs of drugs.
And the drugs of drugs. Like,
well, the drugs are
when Marilyn has left her behind, it's all about the drugs.
Yeah, if she's not Marilyn, then she needs the drugs.
She needs the drugs.
So listen, it's just because I have a heart out because of Lily's play. I want to make sure we get to some very hard scenes that we have to get to, right? So the next big scene, which we mentioned earlier, is her plane ride to New York. Right.
Yes, right.
So her plane ride to New York, and this scene is basically she's on the plane and she is taking pills and drinking champagne to help her sleep. Right. Mm-hmm. She is falling in and out of sleep, trying to get to the bath, falling in and out of sleep as she's asleep. And these are these incredible camera moves. She gets up out of her seat to go throw up in the bathroom. As she gets up out of her seat, the camera pans, and as she's in front of this massive crowd, it's just a continuous shot, right?
Yep.
So she's a massive crowd of people as they're cheering for her, and she's stumbling to get to the bathroom, right? She's throwing up in the bathroom. She gets out of the bathroom, gets back to her seat, goes back to this huge crowd cheering as she's just completely in this incredible state, goes back to her seat. And this transition is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really beautiful,
flawlessly done. One of the great scenes I've seen in years. It's flawless. Just incredible. Yeah,
right. So, and it's really hard to watch.
Yeah.
At which point, then she's at the hotel or she's somewhere in New York, and the Secret Service come for her.
Yeah.
She goes, "Am I under arrest?
Yeah,
like come with us."
Yeah,
right.
And they're basically like they just carry her around.
They grab her on both arms on her and they drag her and she goes, "Am I under arrest?" And then they're like, the president wants to see you. I don't think they say the president, but we kind of get the idea of what's happening. And at which point you see that literally her feet are off the ground and she's being dragged. And she says, "Am I just a piece of meat?"
Like, I'm a delivery? Like, what is that? Like, what is this?
What is this? Right.
Yeah.
And so she arrives at this, hotel suite, and it's filled with Secret Service. Basically, it's JFK, right? There's tons of people there, of people. All
these dudes just are like sitting around
waiting. Their security, they're Secret Service, right?
So crazy.
And he is.
JFK's in his back brace.
He's in his back brace. Yeah, because naked in bed.
Horrible. Yeah, he was jacked up on drugs a lot too.
Yeah,
because he hurt his back at PT 109, and so he was constantly getting. And the same Dr. Feelgood, who had a place on Lexington Ave, man, and everyone just line up and get jabbed.
Right. And so he is on the phone.
He's on the phone being the president.
Right. And the guy on the other end of the phone saying, like, "You sleeping with all these women so publicly."
Do you know who that was?
No.
That was J. Edgar Hoover.
Oh, guaranteed. Of course, makes sense. Yeah,
because J. Edgar hated Bobby, and he did not and they hated him because he was gay. So they totally were at each other. So he always brought shit like this up, like, "Wow, we don't know what to do. You're so immoral." And he would sometimes say, "Well, I heard about you," because he had a place in the Waldorf. Friends would come by and he would dress as a woman.
Right.
And, that was J. Edgar did that. So it's totally like.
It's him on the phone.
And
so like these two like ultra powerful, couldn't give a shit less men.
Right.
Yeah.
And all these bored looking dudes in suits with guns are just filling the scene. Like they're just in every room.
But I also note that he's on the bed, but the door is open.
Mm-hmm.
and the door is open, and the Secret Service is just literally sitting outside the door,
reading a newspaper,
as Marilyn Monroe is escorted to sit by him At which point he barely even acknowledges her and just says, "Just start going at it.
Give it some effort. Come on, work it. Give it effort.
Work it. Come on, just." And he's on the phone. It's like, "No, come on, more. Keep going.
Yeah, come on."
And she's literally that's her. Oh.
Right.
It's heart-wrenching.
And so the and this is obviously a setting scene for everybody. Like she's like it's like this oral sex scene. The camera is right up on her face. She's got her hand near her mouth like this, and you are watching her do this while you are hearing her thoughts about what she needs to do to get through this, right? And who she needs to pretend to be, and this is how she has to act, and all this kind of jazz. So. This sequence, obviously, upsetting for very obvious reasons.
For very obvious reasons,
right? The thing, it doesn't just do that. It also suddenly pulls back and reveals you're watching this on a movie screen.
Oh, right. That's right. I forgot about that. It makes
you very aware that you are the one who is watching her do this. You're like, oh, JFK is such a bad man, right? And then when it goes back into the full frame again, and you're still in the scene now, and you no longer see the movie theater, but now you're very aware of your own frame. This speaking from the point of view of a guy, right? Like I was just like, this is the moment when I was like, this is like when I went to go see Taxi Driver. And there's a scene in Taxi Driver where I'd seen Taxi Driver many, many times before I saw it in the theater. And when I saw it in the theater, there was a scene that it just blew by me before that I didn't understand, but it was chilling when I saw it. There's a close-up of De Niro's eyes that is full frame, and it's way up like this, and he is looking down and sweeping his eyes back and forth, right? And when you're sitting in a movie theater, he is looking at you. Like he is looking at the audience like all you motherfuckers, right?
Right.
Or he's watching them masturbate.
Yeah, he is in the screen looking at you, right? And as soon as I saw that, I was like, what I'm seeing here is any number of a billion porn videos on the internet. Like this is a point of view cam that is implicating me in making her do this.
And Dave 3D says that the scene is also disturbingly from JFK's POV.
Yes, that is
so. It's our POV. You are JFK.
Our POV.
So we are JFK.
We are the ones that are putting her in this position.
And it's and when people are like, it's she's demeaning herself. That's exactly correct.
We are making her do that. That's what
we are making her do that. We are forcing her to do that. And yet
we are also hearing her inner thoughts. And so we in the emotional sense, in the
how she's coping with
we are feeling what she is feeling as we are doing this to her. Like that's encapsulates the entire movie. We are the ones who are forcing this to happen because it makes us feel good about ourselves, and then the person that it's happening to is also us. Like this is like we are being cruel to ourselves constantly in the film, and the movie is sympathetic and empathetic towards the suffering that you have created for yourself in your own life. Like it's like I understand, but look at what is happening. This was like the movie is very, very gentle and understanding of your pain, your actual pain, because your pain and Marilyn's pain, Norma Jean's pain, are the same.
Right. But I think one of the things that's important, and it's just sort of, it's very hard to understand, who is this film for? Who is the point of view? It is more of a film for men to realize what they are doing.
I think that actually I would say it's split, but yes, it is very. It's a
cultural and making icons of people you don't know. Cultural and making.
I agree with that too, Eric. I do agree with that.
I think it actually has it ultimately has a thing to say to everyone. Its most general and most powerful point is not about the gender of the people it's talking to. It certainly uses tools very heavily against the male viewer,
but I think
and it should.
I'm trying to understand how women could see this in any way other than be offended by it.
I can't speak for Anne. I watched it with Anne and Sam. We all loved it. But I can tell you that she said that this was an incredibly we were all crying at the end of the movie.
Of course.
And it absolutely, and this is just what she said, like this represents this feeling of desperate loneliness it better than any other film that she's seen in a long time. Like this is this represents an actual feeling of disassociated, deep sadness. Because there's nothing like you can blame people in the movie, you can not blame people in the movie, but what the movie is sad. Like it is identifying with you in the truth of the sadness.
It is another level of sadness though, because like I said, Manchester by the Sea is sad too, but not like this.
Yeah, not like this. Not like this. This movie is beyond, because I think that the problem that people are having processing this movie is because we are recently, in the past 10 years especially, we have become very addicted to movies being heroic movie experiences for us, where it's like we go to the movie to have a statement said that we agree with, and then we are shown as right. Like this is for every Avengers movie. This is for every social justice movie. It's for every movie about defeating monster. It's everything. Like it's the way we like. If I'm going to experience media, it's going to be about agreeing with me and making me feel like I made the right choice and I am strong.
Right.
Now that's not how movies have always been. It's just the way things are right now.
Taxi Driver wasn't like that.
Exactly. And this movie is agnostic.
Midnight Cowboy wasn't. Midnight Cowboy was. Oh.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these are hard things that are meant, because I've said it before, but there's two general forms of art. One is to celebrate beliefs to reaffirm beliefs that we have. Star Wars, right? Superman, where it shows you an icon of something you believe that we can strive for, and that's beautiful. The Untouchables, and they make you feel great. And then there are movies that are internal, that are aimed at you to say, like, okay, you say you believe this, but do you actually act this way? And let's look critically at you, with empathy, and see what you discover in yourself. And we used to make a lot of those movies, especially in the 70s. We don't make those movies too much anymore. And movies like Blade Runner, for instance, is one of these movies. And the movie like Blonde is exactly that. It's meant for self-examination, and it's not gendered about it. It's saying, as a human being,
that's right.
These are the cruelties we levy onto other humans and onto ourselves.
Okay,
it does identify within the movie gender differences.
The obvious thing that Ron is saying is, like, when people want to see a movie these days, they want to get their money's worth, and it's absolutely true. They don't want to get kicked in the balls.
Yeah, 100%, dude. And the thing is, you're paying $20 a ticket, like, or $20 for Netflix, whatever it is.
But this movie cost $22 million, which is brilliant, and it was on streaming. So you just get it with your subscription. So you didn't pay a ticket for this, and you got gold.
Yes, exactly. And so, I think that this is it's the kind of movie where there's no way that people are going to receive this well, because it sympathizes with you and empathizes with you, and it also points out that you're part of what the pain is that you
caused the problem, right?
Yeah.
Every time
we're all part of this together. And and every time we treat people like this, we are treating ourselves like this. And to observe this and to be critical of the audience yet caring is extremely difficult to fucking do. And we're so unused to it now that the pain that it unearths in us is something we don't know how to handle. So we're just like, what? This must be I'm going to blame somebody, and this movie's bad. It shouldn't make me feel bad. Maybe it's that male director. He must have drugged that woman into giving that performance. Like, no, these are people that are very serious about saying something that's very real and something we should probably really look at.
Yeah.
But it's really fucking upsetting, because we are right now very fucked up. All of us, all ages, very fucked up.
Yep. And we have a distorted view of reality.
Yes.
Very distorted view, and distorted view of everything.
Yeah. This is I watched, like I said, 4 times. Every single time at the end of the film, I was overwhelmed and crying.
Yeah. Right. Okay, but Jet, to be fair, that's most movies for you.
Okay. Like,
thank you for pointing that out.
But there's a different level here, so we should explain. You cry at almost every movie.
Yeah, my Chip and Dale review was similar, but yes, it's true.
But I just want to say that this is so next level, and I can't emphasize it enough, that you have to be ready for it.
Yeah.
But I love Eric's suggestion. Just watch it with the sound off, just to be able to experience it.
Totally endorse that.
because it's all your icon. You know the icon of it, so half the battle is there. There's a character, and your perception of that character is already with you. But just watch it, and it's.
I think that will help it be less escargot.
Less
escargot.
That's it, because eventually
you can't have too much escargot, right?
Yeah. Because I think that, like, for me, it's like there was like it was less escargot every time I watched it. I was like, well, now I knew what the movie was doing. It felt less frightening and more honest.
You knew what you were getting into a little bit more,
and so and
then you could savor a little bit more of that butter sauce.
Exactly so. But this is such a fucking hard ride. This is like trying to swallow a bowling ball. So really, really don't go into this lightly. It is like, I think all the criticisms leveled against it may be misdirected, but they're coming from an honest place, which is.
No, Ron says, isn't it worse to enjoy a thing that kicks you in the balls? Absolutely not. It's absolutely not. Yes. Movies, the concept that movies are supposed to be enjoyed is wrong.
I agree.
Movies should not be enjoyed. Art is not about being enjoying. It's about a reflection of life that's supposed to be intelligently expressed, right? And when someone does it really well, like writing a really good book or doing a really good movie, like Midnight Cowboy was not meant to be enjoyed. Yeah. Right? Taxi Driver was not meant to be enjoyed.
These movies did make my life better through reflection.
Yes. Yes.
I learned not to kick myself in the balls so hard. So that's good. But it is a kick in the balls when you see it.
I mean, even Rocky.
I'm kicking myself in the balls.
Think about Rocky, right? Like Rocky, like in the end, it was like, okay, it helped itself, but Rocky didn't win.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
But most people think Rocky wins, but he doesn't.
No.
Well, okay. So to address what Ron's saying, the thing is, I do enjoy the movie on a different level, right? Like the experience of the movie is is horrifying and sad and painful, right? But also, especially on like not on the first watch, on the second watch when I could be a little bit more removed from it, like I can't help but appreciate the beautiful technique that he uses, right? But even on the first watch, the beauty like is very real, and it's not beauty to show off. It's not beauty to be like, look what a great photographer I am. It's beauty so that what you are seeing and the life you are seeing is made valuable as a work of art. Like, it's not trying to be like, look how fucking awesome I am. It's saying like, Marilyn, like Norma Jean is beautiful. The experience of life is beautiful. And so I need to represent this on the screen. And it is beautiful. It doesn't make it enjoyable, but it is representative of what I feel is beautiful in like the things that I'm sad about, the things that I'm crushed by in my own life are things that it is beautiful that we can feel these things. That is as human as it gets. And so to be as responsible as you can in terms of technique is a beautiful thing unto itself. And because like he is really trying to communicate with your heart. He is not doing this like a music video director and showing off. He's saying like, this is what it feels like. And to be human about it is to be beautiful, and it is to be painful. Like
it's
that's
absolutely,
what's going on.
Listen, it is absolutely incredible. Like this shot that's behind us that I took this picture, right?
Oh,
it is.
Yes.
Right. So this is a shot that is her walking to a car.
Oh, I was looking at
to get an abortion. Right.
So, yeah.
And if you think about, they used a very specific kind of lens, which I don't know if you guys know, but there's these distorted lenses that basically don't have the correct coating on them. That the edges of them create a defocus effect that is round,
spherical. Yeah,
it's spherical, like a spherical defocus, and it's so special. And if you think about what she's walking towards and what that lens represents, and it is pure, gorgeous color and everything, it's really hard to do that. But I have a feeling that a lot of the people who actually are criticizing Blonde are people who've never seen it.
I think that's true. And to be fair to them, are people that are having trouble seeing it, like experiencing it, or allowing themselves to experience it because they're going in with this feeling of just like, I am ready to fight this movie. and because they've heard that it's
people don't have their own opinions. They just
right. And I'm trying not to be mad about it because they get, like, it's super fucking. It's gonna. If they go in with that opinion, which is a totally reasonable, as Ron pointed out, like, it's not unreasonable to expect a male-directed movie about Marilyn Monroe to be a pervy jerk-off fest. It's totally reasonable to expect that because most
and a lot of nudity.
Yeah, exactly. But none of it is like this is not sexy nudity. This is uncomfortable nudity. Like, it's done. It's
you're uncomfortable every time.
Every time. Like, there's nothing enjoyable about any of this stuff. And so, like, the when people go into it thinking with the assumption that this is a vile man who is trying to exploit the nature of this, like, you're going to have your dukes up and you're going to be ready to fight the movie, and the movie's going to make you feel emotions that are close to being enraging, and you're going to be like, and it's going to validate something that isn't there, but you went into the movie with. And I think that is completely understandable, but I wish that we were more in the habit of being curious, of being open to the experience and saying, like, okay, this is what I'm feeling. Why are they trying to make me feel this way? Because the moment you ask that, it will answer you.
Right. Now, listen, I want to get, because like I said, I have a hard out at 6, so I want to make sure we get this through. So we only have a couple more things to go through in terms of the chronology of this. He just left the president's office. That was horrible, or sweet. And this leads us to our third baby loss.
Yep.
Which is
racking them up, huh?
Yeah,
this is the
one that a lot of people like. The CIA didn't force her to have an abortion, but it worked for her.
Right. Like, who knows if this is real? But this is the emotional.
But here, there is one thing. There is one thing, and I don't know if you guys know me, but I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. I think there's a lot of fucking nutters out there. But I've read a lot of, I love history, and that's mostly what I read, about the Kennedy era. But I know that I had read in several different accounts that Bobby sent people in to scan the place to get anything that might point to his brother.
Like, it's none of that.
They literally sent guys over to just, like, look for any kind of letters or anything that would point back. Right. Not that he killed her. It's just they didn't want the relationship or the fact that they knew each other to be public.
Didn't the Kennedys and Marilyn used to hang out at Chez J?
That may be true. Yeah.
Yeah, they used to share. Sinatra used to share her with other people too. And that's how they kind of did it, because Sinatra brought her into that fold.
Well, that's right. The whole Brat Pack used to hang out at Chez J.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but the thing is, he used to get her involved.
Go ahead, Dan. Eric, sorry.
He used to get her involved, like, bring her there, and it would just be a lot of tag teaming, if you know what I mean. And he brought Kennedy and introduced that. And then when Kennedy turned against him, he built a heliport in Palm Springs so the president would stay, and he chose not to stay, and he smashed it with a sledgehammer. But the point is, that was the connection, because he brought the Hollywood thing. He brought her to them. And I told you guys once last week about he went through the tunnel and the subway to go to visit her in an apartment on Lexington. And he was at the Waldorf, and nobody knew where the president of the United States was for about 2.5, 3 hours. That's crazy. But he was just totally irresponsible. But everyone shared her, and she allowed herself to be shared, which is sad.
This is what was actually happening. This is the thing, is like that, to project a fantasy onto her that she is like a heroic, idol of strength is as likely true as anything else. But it is your made up story that you're projecting onto her. Like, it isn't.
Hold on. They didn't completely dismiss that in this film either.
Oh yeah,
he's talking about the critics, though.
No, I understand, but I'm saying, like, listen, while she didn't come out triumphant, she definitely showed her strength and her intelligence.
100%, and this is what I mean to say is, like, what the strength and intelligence she shows is honest, and it's real, and it's actually there. It's not. And it's not there, like, I'm not saying it's actually there in terms of this was the real person, but it's actually there in terms of what it is recognizing about the truths of this emotional story. Like, this is someone who isn't being listened to, She is clearly very smart, but no one can see beyond that. She is clearly very strong, but there are overwhelming forces. Like, it's not negating any of these things, but it's saying that the forces that you're up against, it's like, this is a Manchester by the Sea thing to say, actually, because in the end of that movie, he's like, I may not be able to deal with his grief. I may not ever get over it. And that's not to say that, he is a weak person in Manchester by the Sea. It's just that what happened to him is larger than what he may be able to ever solve. And that's an honest thing to say. And so when you talk about what happens with Marilyn in this, or at the character of Marilyn anyway, I feel connected with her emotionally, not because she is a member of the Avengers who will win and do the noble thing. I feel connected with her because the emotions are real, and I also make fucking stupid mistakes, even though I like to think of myself as a smart, good person. Like, the movie is
also, there was a feminist quality to her. Like, she fucks everybody she wants.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why not?
Live your life,
Dave Hughes says, I don't understand why this got an NC-17 rating. I absolutely understand why it got an NC-17 rating.
Why?
Well, NC-17
there's a shot inside of her vagina, for God's sake.
You don't know what that is.
And also, there's a scene of an actual penis in there for about 4 frames.
Yeah, I did not catch that. Only you catch stuff like that. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so like this is the thing. It's like being like, it is. I can't talk about like with the validity of NC-17 because NC-17 is totally fucking ridiculous. Like, that's like saying R++. Like, what does that mean? Like, we're adults already. Like, what's the point? Like, it's like, you must be 18. No, really 18. Oh, well, I'm glad I got the really part in there. And all it does is just damage. And so like NC-17 is used as an advertising thing to promise you that you're going to see something lascivious. That's what it is. That's the only reason it exists. So like, I dismiss it as a fucking advertising trick now. But the content is upsetting. It's like there's if you're talking about the difference between, say, GPG and R, like there are movies that are rated R that have less violence than are movies that are rated PG-13 because the violence in them is very meaningful. Like Goodfellas, is not as gory as some fucking PG-13. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but seeing someone get hit in the face with a pistol bumps it to an R. Like, that's what happens. So I understand that. But the problem in the reception of the movie is I wish there was a grading system for, like, just rate this A for Avengers, T for Taxi Driver. Like, give me that much so you can say, like, okay, you're really going to have to try to open yourself up a little bit before you go in and see this, because it may be upsetting.
So Dave is as like, I've seen comedies that have been shot from inside of a vagina. It's like, yeah, I get it, but still,
don't worry yourself over the fucking rating system.
I don't worry about the rating system. I don't think it's a political thing. I don't care. And the fact that people reacted, like, people are going to react to this no matter what.
Yeah,
but anyway,
exactly.
I got to get through it. Okay, so at this point, let's get through. This leads to basically the death scene. So Eric, tell us what you love about this death scene. Like, explain how it happens and why you love it. Because I love it too, but you're going to give us the best one.
Yep.
So basically what happens is that she is back at her home. If I'm correct, I can't remember what the scene prior to that was, but she gets a phone call that I think it was Edgar Robinson Jr. or Chaplin Jr. I forget.
Yeah, one of the Chaplins.
One of the Well, is it
one of the twins? One of
the twins. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So like, I believe it's Chaplin.
Dies. Yeah. Right. Dies.
Right.
And the other gentleman calls and said, he died. And she's very kind of a little standoffish about it. She's like, well, I don't want, he made a box for you. He has something for you that he bequeathed it to you. So we're going to send it over. It's like, well, I don't want it. Well, a delivery guy shows up. She goes inside to get a tip for him. And she's just so out of it, you can tell. Because she can't even find her purse and she's disheveled. And she comes back with the tip money and the guy's gone. So she goes inside and opens the box. Mm-hmm. And in it is a bear.
Oh, yeah, she takes a long time to try to find like a dollar.
Yeah, but it just shows how helpless she is on her own, that she'll never survive in the real world. And she wants to live in make-believe because people can take care of things. Yeah. She'd rather live in make-believe drugged out. And the reality is that that's the only type of life she wants.
Yeah.
So then...
And her life is pain.
She opens this box, and... She opens the box, and it's a teddy bear that had a lot of sentimental value to her as well as to one of the twins, or both of the twins. And then there's a card, and it says, "From your father." And in it, it opens up, and there's a little, comp trick. But the point is, what is said.
The card is empty, and the letters fill in.
Yes, that's right. But I'm saying that's a comp trick.
Yeah, but it's
beautiful. But I want to explain what the comp trick is.
And the comp trick. And basically it says that all those tears shed by your father were make-believe.
Yeah, all these letters you got from your dad were actually done by me. Like, I'm a liar.
And it's very sadistic,
yes,
and it just flew her over she just reacted.
And now, can I ask a question? Is like the way I interpreted this, and this is just to clarify what's happening emotionally for you in the scene, is like, I read it, that the one who died is the one that she was truly in love with, right? And the one who lived is the sort of like shallow asshole, right? And the guy who she loved was writing these things because he wanted to be caring of her, and the guy who lived was sadistic. That's only the way I read it.
I don't think, because honestly, he was being catty and mean, because if he really did care, he wouldn't have tried to sell the photos. Remember, the guy she loved is the one that took the lead with DiMaggio and said, "You know what? We don't want to see this." They're angry at her for actually having stardom or doing something, even though
exactly.
Yeah, and for these little brats, it's they're shitheads, man. They're like kids,
and it's incredibly cruel. It's
cruel, and it's mean, and it's very like Connecticut 1980s, and it's so she,
who they're like. They're like
Nichols and Thrawn. Who?
No. Who's the character that I'm thinking of? Oh God,
Tim Beluga.
the rich kid from Pretty in Pink.
What's
his name?
There's totally Spader-esque.
Spader. Yeah, it's Spader in Pretty in Pink, man.
My roommate in high school.
Blaine, thank you. Blaine. Amazon appliance.
A couple of Blaines. That's right. A couple of Blaines in this movie. So Blaine reveal that her father was not writing to her all this time. It was actually just them fucking her over. They give her the doll that she found in the street that is like the doll that she used to have, and that's when she just fucking loses it.
Yeah, he was fucking with her. He was being mean. There was nothing nice about
it. Dave says Cass Chaplin was the one who died and sent her the letter. He admits to messing with her head.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what we were saying.
So like she is destroyed by this.
She's destroyed.
Yeah.
So then she, you start to follow this sequence of very light and in and out of focus, where it's very dreamlike,
very bright, like white scene.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of photos of her in that era. What was the guy's name? I have a book.
These glorious, like very heavenly photographs. Yeah,
Genesis did it. I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
And so basically, she's drinking and taking the pills methodically, and then she just goes back to her bed and just dies. But you see her go up to the light
from the point of view of the dog, which like the dog. I love this little. This is one of those sort of like those moments where it uses like this pseudo kitschiness that surrounds Monroe for an incredible emotional effect, because the dog is sort of looks up at the ceiling, and then we follow the dog's gaze. And then we rise up into literal heaven through the ceiling to see her, her fedora-hatted, cool-looking dad.
Now
smoke,
it was such a beautiful scene. If I can finish, there was such a beautiful scene. And I felt like it was one of the best death scenes I've ever seen.
Oh, it's incredible.
I actually was sympathetic with her, and I was like, this is the right thing, because there's no way she can survive. Right. And God bless her, and she's just traveling to the next place.
Well, and the beauty.
Part of me also, is that there was a riffness to that, the way the light and pulling the lens off the camera, because when they go through that roof, because it's all the timber, that style of mid 50s or whatever, in Brentwood, that was in Brentwood, or house in Brentwood. When they go up, the rafters kind of bend like it's an optical trick. Yeah. So it wasn't like they really pushed the camera up because they planned.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely a lens
totally
trick,
riffing.
Right? And so like and like you're passing through these jail bars of the window, right? Like so you're being
ceiling
freed.
kind of.
Now, of course, like I don't want anyone to commit suicide. I totally do not recommend anything like this. But the sense of freedom from pain is both incredibly. It's freeing and it's also very sad. Oh my God. Like it is really, really overwhelming.
Just the leg. Her leg is draped.
Yeah.
And time lapse just shows that time goes by.
Right. Well, and also like the one of the great, because like the image when she goes through into heaven and sees her dad, it's like what's beautiful about it is this movie. The image of her dad is so kitschy and cornball, but it's because she was a child when she saw it, and so it retains this childlike point of view, and it doesn't like. And so I realized that like I'm totally crying my face off, and all the cynicism that I would normally apply to an image like this has been wiped away. Like I'm so connected with her, and I emotionally am so much in the same place that it's both extremely childlike and really beautiful simultaneously, right? And when you return to the real world, right? The camera, there's two great elements. One is she's on the bed, top-down shot of her on the bed, and she's just like lying out with the phone, right? And then there's this soft dissolve of her moving her head like this on top of that image and looking right at you. And so you have a twin effect of her. Like
that was a famous pose at that house.
Yes, right. And so you dig that up. And so it has this double effect of like you feel terrible for her, and it also reminds you that you are still iconifying her. And then the camera itself, it doesn't just cut to a shot of looking at the feed. The camera moves over handheld, and then it's sort of put down in a wobble. And so you're super aware that you are still watching her. Like no, even though she's dead, you're still watching her. And so the movie is like it's empathic even with her death, and saying like, what exactly are you still doing watching her now? Like this is a beautiful shot, and then the legs in the bed, right? But it always communicates with you and makes you realize what you're doing over and over again through the entire film.
I do want to know.
Yeah, it was the dual thing, but that was, I think, the guy that took the photo when I'm trying to.
100%.
I think it was two different shots over the bed, and the Norma, the two split person. Yes. I agree.
Bingo.
But it was Bert's. Where they were saying, we took it from photos.
The base photograph,
I think Bert Stern is the guy because he was the guy that spent a lot of time where they're shooting at her place in Brentwood before she died.
And so there's so many beautiful shots of her too. I mean, these are like to root that part in those photographs is really pretty genius, and to constantly remind us that
didn't he do that also kind of with the Jesse James?
Oh, absolutely. He uses the same like the same specific lenses to the time and matches the death shot.
Like doing that kind of.
I also want to note, by the way, that the DP on this is is not a famous DP.
No kidding, really?
No.
Who is it?
His name is Chase Irving. And he's done a bunch of music videos.
Wow, dude.
He's mostly famous for his music videos and shorts. And he's done some big ones, obviously. Done the music video for Marilyn Manson and Beyonce and a bunch of stuff. But what's interesting is he's not. Remember, because the last one he did was with freaking Roger Turkin.
Yeah, Deacons. Yeah,
Deacons, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a huge deal because I don't think Deacons could have done this. It's too technical.
Yeah. This is not Deacon's bag. Like
too technical.
Yeah, I agree.
And so this guy being from the music video scene, and I don't, can pull this off because these transitions are
super
masterful.
Technical. Yeah.
Super technical.
Brilliantly,
very
artfully designed and then executed perfectly.
Right.
Yeah. It's such a combination of a vision and a real artistic vision and then a real technical execution is just it's totally unparalleled. Like it's one of the greatest looking movies I've seen in so long.
And so I think that's something that's surprising to me. It's like, who was the DP on this? And it's like, I've never heard
nice
of this
job,
person.
Dude. I've like that's
and again, I don't think this is a performance because of this film that's not going to get recognized for the brilliance of this thing.
Yep.
The look and style they pulled from was Burt, and Burt Stern is the guy that was actually the last person to photograph her.
Yeah.
And so if you look it up, the Burt Stern did a lot of work with her, but he literally went over to her place. And that's the one where the famous, I don't know if anybody's seen it, where she crosses, let me look for it. She crosses out on the negatives. I think she was shooting Misfits. Oh, yeah. And she's like, I don't like this, like every single one was X through. Yeah. Because she just was
that's great. Yeah, great. Go ahead.
Gloomy color and feeling is the Burt Stern thing.
And Dave 3D puts it really well. It's his favorite shot during the death is that double exposure. Norma dies while Marilyn poses. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's a stone cold, like implicate the audience gently one last time.
These are the last photos. Yeah, that's really cool. But awesome, that kind of vibe. If you see it, it's that's
but great. So this movie, I really recommend. I totally agree with Eric and say, like, watch this movie. If this movie sounds overwhelming, watch it with the sound off the first time, and that will help. And also, if you haven't seen The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, see it because it's one of the best movies ever made. I'll also see it because especially the last third of the movie, which is about Robert Ford alone, has very similar themes that help reflect this, because Robert Ford is the person who fantasized about Jesse James and thought he knew him really well and knew all these things and facts and projected his own heroism onto Jesse James, right? And then he meets Jesse James, and Jesse James is not at all like what he thought, and he ends up killing Jesse James. And then
he created a fantasy of it.
He created a fantasy because essentially he created a fantasy. He was part of the reason why Jesse James wanted to die, right? And then afterwards, Robert Ford goes on and he becomes essentially he's put in the position of being Jesse James as he becomes famous for having killed him. And then when someone comes to kill him, it's almost a relief. Like, and so you get the 2 points of view, but it's great to compare it because, like, Jesse James, that movie is from the external point of view. We are watching this happen to characters, where this movie, and I think this is why Dominik was so obsessed with making it, is he's like, that's great, but the real deal is you have to be inside the character literally, and you have to see it specifically from that point of view, so you can share that feeling, and that's why this movie was such a masterpiece.
How old is Dominik?
He must be late 50s, mid 50s.
Yeah, late 50s. Yeah.
He's a true artist, man. He's one of the best.
Yeah, he's old friends.
He was born in '67.
Yeah.
So
he's my age. He's totally.
And he's from New Zealand.
That's right. That's why he's friends with Nick. He's done a ton of stuff with Nick, and they're old friends.
Yep.
And I've known about him for years because I'm a Cave aficionado.
Yep. And the music to this, Cave's music to this is incredible.
Warren Ellis.
Yeah, it's really,
cool.
really incredible.
And if you guys see those photos I sent over and you see like an orange X, it's the last sitting, and then she went to do the Misfits, and he sent the negatives to her photos. And she's like, I look ugly, I look horrible. So she put a Sharpie through them all and sent it back.
Yeah,
that's really her saying, it's weird because it's her half naked, and then these beautiful shots, and there's an X through. It's like a crucifix.
Yeah, that's fucking heavy duty, man. Absolutely. So there you go. I know you have a heart out, but thank you guys for talking about this movie. This movie fucking completely blew me away. And
next time we're going to do something a little bit
more lighter.
Little
Tootsie.
Tootsie would be good.
Tootsie is great. Tootsie's a good movie.
But also, this is one of the most current things we've ever done.
Yep, that's true. And also, I think it's the one where we are most opposed to the mainstream.
Well, we've been opposed to the mainstream a lot.
Yeah, sure.
This one definitely seems to be
Yeah,
Yes.
we are out of the cultural zeitgeist on Blonde. Blonde is a bad movie that you should not watch. I think
they're wrong.
Yep, it is a hard movie. But
I think a lot of people who say this is a bad movie you shouldn't watch are people who actually haven't seen it.
Haven't actually seen the movie. Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah, it's kind of sad too. Like they should be.
Yeah, no, it's really something, and I. Yeah.
But listen, there's also, this is a thing, right? People read things and are like, they make decisions on whether they want to see films based on what they read. And if they see something that they don't want, it's like, then I'm not going to bother seeing it, because if you see it, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee Blonde.
No, it is going to be there forever.
Why would you want to unsee something?
Well, it's like, because it's unpleasant, and a lot of people are not going to, like, as Ron rightly pointed out, like, most people are going to the movies to spend $20 so they can feel better about their day, not so they can feel like they're like, great, somebody else shares my horrible pain. That's what I wanted to be reminded of.
but we used to do that. We used to actually go things to feel empathy, right?
Yep. And that was during Vietnam. I mean, like, come on, man.
For God's sakes, we went to see Midnight Cowboy. It wasn't because we wanted to have a good time, right? Yeah, exactly. We wanted to enjoy an incredible experience.
They posed a lot of questions.
Yes.
And it was, culture was centered around a lot of it, but it's not. And it's like,
art is about giving you tools to find a new part of yourself. That's all it is. Art is never safe. Never believe art is safe, and it should never be safe. Sometimes it's very fun, sometimes it's very kind, and sometimes it makes you feel great. But never believe that it should be safe, because some of the best stuff it does for you, it's not an unpainful experience. It can be hard, and this is hard, but worth it.
Right. Okay. As we're wrapping things up here, I'm going to put it here in our Twitch stream. We've started a Patreon. We would love, I know some of you guys subscribe to us on Twitch, and we can still absolutely accommodate that, but we would actually prefer it if you guys would support us
via Patreon.
On Patreon, because we actually get more from Patreon than we do from Twitch. If you do like the Prime subscription, which you technically have one free a month, go ahead and continue to do that. We'd love your Prime subscriptions. But if you actually want to send us your hard-earned dollars, which we'd appreciate, we do it on Patreon. We actually
one Starbucks visit through it our way. That helps.
So right now we only have one thing. It's $5 a month. If you guys want to support us there, we'd appreciate that. That helps pay for all this stuff. So it's for those of you listening, it's patreon.com/martini giant, all one word. Again, patreon.com/martini giant.
We're thinking about having a level that's $3 a month, where it sounds good up front, but I actually text you my opinions every 20 minutes, and it gets to be a hassle. So go for the $5.
Yeah, go for the $5. But if you do join us on Patreon, we are also automatically we'll join our subscribers only lounge on our Discord as well. Which, by the way, our Discord is very active and a lot of fun. So lots of good memes. Man. Today was pretty funny on the Discord. Lots of funny memes stuff.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
And thanks very much to Dave 3D Guy. Thank you to everyone who is here. This is a great old time.
Great points tonight.
But
and interaction.
It was lovely. And next time it will be something lighter.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. It's hard to sleep.
Oh God, dude.
Really?
Dude, yeah. It's so like
I was not emotionally ripped up. I was so inspired by this.
I was also inspired. I'm
inspired. I'm not saying I wasn't inspired. It's just hard to sleep. Maybe I just have
heavy duty. It's just
more shit going on in my life than you do.
You know what you got to do? No. I work same hours as you. What you need to do is just inject barbiturates into one of your main veins.
Attach the camera to your midsection, aim it right at your face,
and just
barbiturates in the neck.
Yep, just a little bit of sleeping pills mixed with Prosecco, and you are
so
out.
Nice. There's the fizz, the Prosecco.
It's called the old TWA to New York flight, and I love it.
That's nice.
Teeny weeny airlines.
That's right. Excellent. All right, there we are.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This has been a lot of fun, and it's great that we were able to do this. But next week, by the way, we're in October, so we may have to make a scary, funny movie.
That's true. We got to do a scary. We have to do a scary.
How about
Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Did we do the Werewolf of London?
Oh, American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple of that. Anyway, actually, that's a good point. If you guys have any suggestions for a good Halloween stuff, put it on our Discord. And
how about Billy Elliot?
That's scary.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's okay.
Have you guys ever seen Grabbers?
No, you were telling me about Grabbers. I have to see Grabbers.
That's an Irish horror film. Oh my God, would love that.
Sounds really strange.
Oh, it's hilarious because it's basically about these creatures from the ocean, but they figured out that they're affected by if your blood alcohol level is too high, they can't eat you, so everyone gets really
super
drunk.
hammered.
And this is in Ireland, so you can see where this is going.
That's why everyone lives in Ireland.
It sounds like a fish and chip shop, like Grabbers.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Awesome. Excellent.
Highly recommend. All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Drink.
Talk.
Drink.